welcome to Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, episode 194. I'm Dave Z. Yeah, and
I'm Christian. Everybody, how's it going? We have to.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. I know we made a joke about announcing ourselves way back when in the day, and how we were never really doing it, or we always fucked up when we did it. But it's like they know who we are now.
You're right.
At this
they
point.
do know. It's true.
If you don't know, then
it's
I don't
me.
know. I don't know what to say. Yeah.
It's me because I'm hanging around with these professionals. I'm hanging around with Jay of the Dead and Watson, and they're very professional with their delivery, and they're very formulaic with everything.
And then who are the professionals that you're dealing with?
Right.
Sorry.
They rub off on me, though. You see what I'm saying? I'm hanging out with those guys. And
I miss Watson. I'm glad he is joining us on the year end, right? That's been 100% confirmed. Even in our disjointed messages back and forth, Watson, he'll text me like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Fine." It's like one response a week. It's becoming like the new. It's actually been like probably 2 weeks now, but that seems to be the flow of the conversation with him.
He's
this
tough
Watson.
to do. He's tough to be involved with the Watson because of where he works and everything else, and he doesn't have reception half the time and everything else. And you'll see all of a sudden one day he'll drop it on online. He'll be on Facebook, and all of a sudden I'll see all these things that he liked or commented on that was from like a week ago. I'm like, what's this? And it's all Watson. Because he'll weigh in, because he only goes online so much and doesn't. I'll catch him in the chat. He'll be in the chat every so he'll kind of keep up with the chat that we have for Jay the Deads. And so we're there, and there's fucking 9 people in that thing. So sometimes it's active, sometimes it's not. But I'll see him maybe once or twice a week in there. But he's tough to pin. You know what I mean? But
it's not a bad thing not to be online and to actually.
No, are you kidding me?
Working and stuff like that. Like fuck, that's the way it should be. But I joke, but I'm looking forward to having him back on the show and doing a year end.
And he is doing 3 year ends. He's doing because he got the other 2 shows he does. He's got the Jay the Deads with me, right? Yeah.
I didn't tell him. I told you. No, maybe I did tell him that he should have 3 different year ends, like 3 different lists.
He did make a joke.
He's gonna know his audience.
Well, the thing about us is we have 22, so I don't even care. Think about it. No one's going to hear anything past 10 except on our show. Everybody else is just doing 10 because that's what everybody does. We're the only ones. So at least we have that added bonus of, hey, even if he is doing it 3 times, like me, I'm going to do it for Jay of the Deads too. And it's going to come out first. But nothing I can do about that. But then again, our audience is limited anyway. We have our patrons here and
in intelligence, right? That's just get in, everybody. That one goes into Missouri.
Missouri, huh?
Yeah.
That's where Wazell is, Missouri. He's the chef of. Yeah.
That's where Wazell's from.
Yeah, the chef of St. Louis.
I didn't know that.
That's him. Yeah.
That's where Gary Hill and Chris A.K. Scott.
They're
all from Missouri.
Gary Hill's from Chicago.
Oh no, not Gary Hill. Gary fucking Miller.
Gary Miller.
Yeah, not Gary Hill. Sorry.
That's sir.
I have no clue where Gary Hill's from. Even though he's been on the show.
He's from Chicago. The Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
Who is that? Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago? Isn't that, what do you call it?
I thought it was Gary Hill.
Well, I just coined him that now. But no, isn't that from what's that movie? Isn't that joint from the 80s? Ferris Bueller? The Sausage King of Chicago. And I'm going to look it up.
Probably. That movie, there's a few 80s movies that just hit it off that were like super popular back in the day and just did not resonate with me. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of those movies.
Agreed.
People were going ape shit over it, and I thought it was good. And I think it took me a long time to see it. I definitely didn't see it in the theater back in the day. And you know what, another one, but don't get me wrong, I actually like this movie now, but I just took me a while to warm up to The Breakfast Club. I do like it.
Wow.
I do like it a lot. But it took me a long time to kind of get to that level where it's just like, okay, like back in the day, I'm like, it's fine. Yeah.
Oh, really? I could tell you how. Okay, now Ferris Bueller, I will meet you on. I was never all that engrossed like other people were. As a matter of fact, remember when Twist and Shout started being played on the radio in the 80s? It made a comeback. Well, no. It made the comeback because, it was featured in 2 movies. But I actually preferred the other movie because it was featured in Ferris Bueller, but it was also featured, and it was 60s, by the way, for the Beatles. 1963
yeah, sorry.
Twist and Shout. Well, you
I was about to correct myself, but I didn't want to step over you like I usually do.
No.
But I did.
Back to School. Back to School was also a Twist and Shout. And I want to see what came out first, but I can only look up so many things at once. Because you talked about Breakfast Club. I got to tell you how high I am on The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club is one of these movies, like here's the, I like to jot things down. Like, see all those movies that are listed there? I don't know, what is it, like 20, 30 movies, non-horror, whatever? Those are all my favorite movies, period. So if we ever did like a show where we did our top 20 non-horror, there's a chance that Breakfast Club is on there for me. So it's an all-timer for me, I would have to say.
No, and for a lot of people of our generation, I think that was the one that resonated. And I'm not saying I was like, it's good. Why is everybody going on and on about it? But over time, I appreciated that more and more. Whereas Ferris Bueller, I lose it. I like the opening, and then I get bored. I just feel like it just doesn't stick with me. And that whole dad relationship with the guy at the Ferrari always seemed forced. I just never gave a fuck. It just didn't really win me over. And Twist and Shout, the original version, because I knew it still was 61.
It's a cover.
It was 61, yeah. But I thought it was maybe, that's why I said, to be honest, that's why I said the 50s, because I thought the one that the Beatles were covering, I thought it came out in the 50s, but it actually was only 61. So I still was wrong.
Yeah, hey, it's okay.
I can admit every now and then that I'm wrong. Every now and then. But
I'm okay with years, especially with the Beatles. In years.
I wanted to say that, and Kuno, this goes out to you. I want to say that we were thinking about, we've already set up everything on Discord in a sense to try it out, because if this audio quality is better, and I'm not going to be stepping over Dave, then I'm all for it. I was also thinking if it's just the two of us, we could also use Zoom, because supposedly Zoom, it's fine. It's you can use it, because something about Skype is a little off. I'm finding that the codecs are off. The downfall of Discord, Dave, my understanding is I have to use a third-party screen recorder for the video option. So then that gets into a whole other thing that I got to find out for a 3-hour long form show if there's anything that works well enough that I don't have to spend an arm and a leg for. QuickTime's got one built in. But then I've got to play around and use the audio from this recording and whatever. But I already saw that I could have, if you were in Discord, the same audio recording system that I have, I could use right now for Discord.
Really?
So I just want to actually see if Discord's connection is any better than Skype. We've been having better luck with Skype. There's been a lag that sometimes I talk over you. That's my thing. Or with Carly that time I felt like that might have also just been because we were both in the same room and the excitement level was up here and Carly's was down here. Just kidding.
Who could blame her, right?
But I'm all for, if it's going to sound better, I'm all for trying it out. But like I guess I'm going to be a little bit of a cliche here, and it's tough to teach an old dog new tricks in the sense of like, this is working and it seems like it's working well enough. But again, if there's been a problem, I'm not against venturing out and seeing if there's better options.
Let me ask you this. Can Discord be uploaded to YouTube with the same ease that this is right here?
I don't think it matters. It's that becomes, like, for instance, the audio recording, so that doesn't change. Instead of me choosing Skype here and us using this interface, we use Discord. We still see each other and put Discord into here, and it records the same way that this is recording. So from an audio standpoint, the process is very similar. What Skype has is you just get to hit that beautiful record button right built into the system, and it just records the video. That is easy. It looks like I might have to use, well, there's other things you can use, but I possibly use QuickTime, like I just mentioned, and do a screen record. Now, what that will do is pick up my audio no differently because it'll be this microphone, but then I've got to put your audio. So I probably have to use the other audio that we've recorded and put it on, which is fine. I've done that when all the time when Skype was fucking up, when with Brandon on the show, when we had the three of us, and sometimes the Kodak would be out and I'd be missing chunks of audio. I had to use this audio anyway. So it's not foreign to use. It's just been much easier for whatever reason when we've gone down to just the two hosts. The audio's been better, but there's been lag. It's the weirdest thing. It's a trade-off.
It sucks because I'm saying you keep freezing on me. It comes out, but that's the problem. That's what it is.
See, I'm not freezing on myself. But
right.
I can't
Am
even tell
freezing on you?
Freeze. No, you did at the beginning, but that's the whole point. That's the whole point, and I'm not against doing it because I do realize that it's been a little bit more of that recently, which it's never been like that in the past.
Well, we'll see. And this whole Discord thing could take off. We can have the big chat in Discord and the other stuff you can do in Discord for the podcast and everything else. Because I'm on there every day anyway, because that's where I check my MB stuff. That's where I see movies that are uploaded. That's where I can request things. So I have correspondence there as is. So that's just one more thing I can do. And that would be cool, because who knows, maybe we can,
Well, you just log in, you just download it to your desktop like you would download Skype, open it up like any other application, sign in, and then it will be linked. It'll be the same thing that's on your phone. So I did it on my phone first and then did it on the computer, and it was easy peasy. So that should be good. And then we, instead of going into Skype, we just go into Discord. I record this, and then we can figure out the screen recording stuff as we go. I'm not against that. We can learn as we go.
Shoot, man. Nice. So check this out. I had to look it up. Back to School and Ferris Bueller both came out in 1986, but check it. Back to School came out June 13th, 1986. Okay, now Ferris Bueller came out June 11th, 1986. So this almost the same exact time they both came out, and they both featured Twist and Shout. And then Twist and Shout came back to the airwaves, if you will, and it became a single again. But everybody credits it to Ferris Bueller because I guess it's just a more popular movie, which for me, like I said, I was always more into Back to School. I thought
Back to School, if I had to choose right now, like kill one, I'm killing Ferris Bueller, and Back to School is reigning supreme. Yeah.
I'll even tell you this. This is something else that might be controversial about 80s comedies like that and stuff. Molly Ringwald's finest moment to me is Breakfast Club, and I am really not all into Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles that much. They're fine, but everyone loves those two. They're iconic, but to me they're not. They're just to me they're like Ferris Bueller level, where they're fine. I like them, but Breakfast Club to me stands on its own thing. You know what I mean? And Anthony Michael Hall, Breakfast Club, of course. He was in Pretty in Pink too, I think. I mean,
what about Making the Grade?
I don't even remember that. Barely. I remember the title. I remember it coming out. But Anthony Michael Hall for me is always going to be Rusty from Vacation, because National Lampoon's Vacation, to me, is the definitive fucking movie in their franchise. Not Christmas Vacation, which I enjoy, but like if you're talking all-time movies, I think National Lampoon's Vacation. I think it's because of the popularity the Christmas Vacation took on.
Yeah.
It seems like it's overshadowed the original, but I think the original is absolutely a better comedy.
Well, I actually like all of them. I didn't see the remake one that came out a few years ago. I like them all, including Vegas Vacation, which got shit on when it came out.
Oh, Vegas was okay. It's
okay.
European that people shit on. Europeans is basically considered the worst, I think. Vegas has lots of lines from it. Papa Giorgio, people talk about it. It's okay.
I think it's growing up with it. But Vacation, weird. You're right. Vacation is the from a comedy standpoint. But unfortunately, you're right. Like if I had to pick one, it will be Christmas, because I watched that. I love that. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Christmas movie with Krampus now. And I watch it at least once, possibly twice every year.
That's fair. I mean, it's great. Yeah. It's great because it's a Christmas movie. That I agree, and it is funny. It has classic moments, but I've always gone back to the original. I was quoting the original for years before Christmas. I just have too much of an attachment to the original Vacation. There's just, I don't know. It's brilliant, and you have everything in there too. You still have Cousin Eddie in both of them. I like when they go visit Cousin Eddie and all that other stuff. I think it's awesome, but it's tough. I understand why people love Christmas, and that's fine. But it seems like they kind of, because of the popularity of Christmas, they sleep on the original, is the way it seems. Like Christmas Vacation gets all the attention, And speaking of Christmas movies and comedies, did you see the new what is it called? A Christmas Story movie, or a Christmas Story?
Oh, whatever. Christmas Story, Christmas, the stupid title that I hate.
Yeah,
it's out. It's out on Crave or one of them. Prime, Crave. It's on one of the streaming services, but I still haven't watched it yet.
I've watched it. It's good. It was a family thing. We were all here. I said, okay, this is something we can watch together. So I liked it. Some people are absolutely blowing it like it's fucking, a 9 out of 10 or the level of the original. It's not that, but it's a good. If it wasn't for the original, if this same exact comedy came out and just did the same things that it was, it would just be a fine movie. The reason it's good is because it's all called back to the original, and they do it right, and it's the same guy. But ultimately, the story, you're never going to be able to. That's lightning in a bottle, the first one. It just is. You're not going to get that again. But if you're a real big fan of the original, and apparently most people are, then you'll enjoy it.
You're pulling them in. Hey, you know what? You know the funny part of it is, now everyone's like, well, what's the plot? Where's the story? I'm not saying the original doesn't have a story, but it's more of a slice of life. You know what I mean? It's like little. There's a narrative and there's a flow to it. But I'm saying it's a slice of life, which I love those type of movies. But nowadays, I feel like people shit on them and say like, oh, well, there's no, like, what's the story here? What's like, why am I watching this, or whatever it may be. But
I'm with you. I like a slice of life. That's I honestly, and I always say it because I get tired of the same old thing. I get tired of everybody expects the same thing forever. It's like act 1, act 2, act 3, this, you got to have a character arc, you got to have this has to go. It's just, and it's the same thing I talk about music. It doesn't always have to be fucking chorus, verse, fucking guitar solo, chorus, verse, out. It doesn't. Why does everything have to be so formulaic? I like expansion of traditional things, and slice of life movies, I really enjoy them. And I really enjoy movies that take place in the running time of the movie, which you don't see much, which is a rare thing to see, but I enjoy stuff like that. It's just something that steps outside normal. There's a movie from this year, actually, that's going to make my list, and it takes place in the running time. You know what I mean? And you don't see them a lot, but if you execute it right, it's pretty awesome, man. So
yeah, well,
I don't know.
I don't know. Fully agree. I seem to remember. I think I'm wrong. I just did a quick check while we were talking about it. For whatever reason, I thought A Christmas Story didn't get the greatest reception back in the day when it came out.
It didn't. See,
I think it was kind of shit on. It was nostalgia, and Christmas Vacation I think was a hit. But I remember, felt like classmates complaining. They're going, "Oh, it sucks compared to European or Vacation because they don't go anywhere." I'm like, well, it's still Christmas. I call it Christmas Vacation too, but it's Christmas break. I mean, so that's the series name, and they're just doing it at home. Yeah, oh, they didn't go anywhere. That's stupid. I'm like, what? No, but who cares if they went anywhere?
How about this? Eddie took the vacation. Eddie took the vacation. Yeah. You want to get technical? It's Eddie's Christmas Vacation. There you go. Who gives a shit? There you go.
That's why I watched Christmas Vacation Part 2, Eddie's Paradise, or whatever the fuck it's called. I've never seen that before in my life.
Me neither. So I don't remember it being shit on, but I do remember. See, here's the story about A Christmas Story, and why. Okay. When A Christmas Story came out, it was just a movie that came on HBO. Now, here is the thing. The first 2 years it played on HBO, nobody said dick about it. However, my family did. A Christmas Story was one of the movies. Well, listen to me, though. This is the thing, though, about this movie. You know, I don't know if you have this in your family, but in my family, we just have certain movies that are family movies that, like Neighbors. Nobody talks about fucking Neighbors. I love it. It's a family movie for me.
You bringing that up, I forgot about it.
Right.
Totally forgot about that movie.
Flash Gordon's another one. Some people are new, but that was a movie that we always talked about and quoted. But, okay, A Christmas Story for my family, and it was an extended. It wasn't just in my household, me, mother, father, brother. It was also my aunts and uncles. We were quoting that movie for the first 2 years all the time when nobody fucking talked about it. Then all of a sudden, a couple years later, it got more popular. They started showing it. Then they started making it 24 hours. And now it's a slice of Americana, and it's fucking, everybody knows it everywhere, even though it's Canadian, but whatever. But bottom line is this. It's one of those movies that I still love it. But now, you ever have those things that are special to you because they're your thing and then not everybody gets it and it makes it even more special? That's what Christmas Story was for me when I was a kid. But now everybody in the world is on it, and it's still special and I love it. But when every single person gets the same references, it doesn't have that same, I don't know, vavoom that it once had. And that's what it became with me. You know what I mean? I still love it. It's amazing.
I get it. Yeah.
But I was on it. My family was on that for a couple of years, and nobody said dick about it. So because of that, You know, that's the thing about me and A Christmas Story. But I'm glad everybody enjoys it. It's just that, you know, people ignored it for fucking 2-3 years.
And I do believe it might be because it was Bob Clark, and maybe they just brushed him like, because his track record, excuse me, in retrospect, there's some great movies there, but there in his track record, I think at the time, like he just come off Porky's, if I'm not mistaken. And again, big hit that spawned sequels, but not critically well received. And so I have a feeling that there may have been maybe that may have fed into it. I'm going only by memory here. My quick search did not, as you were talking, like I said, did not really back that up, but I recall it not having a following out of the gate. It felt like it built over time.
And we were always quoting the father all the time. Me, my uncles, this and that. We were always quoting the old man, and nobody knew what we were talking about. It was just like we could do Neighbors or Natural Born Killers, which is a bigger film, but we quote movies all the time, and I'm sure a lot of other families do it too. But we have things that like that, and not everyone's gonna know. But it gets to the point that, you know what I'm saying? This was our thing, and now it's everybody's thing. And that's the only thing about that movie. But you're right. But I don't think HBO cares who directs it. It's just that some movies get the cult following when they play on cable, and then people sit up and take notice. Christmas Story is not the only one. There's other ones too that were
Thing. We could talk just the Thing, Videodrome. Videodrome is probably lesser than The Thing, but the Videodrome, like, again, I didn't get the privilege of seeing a lot of top 10 lists, but the ones that were thrown into our whatever that came on Patreon or whatever that were there, just seen a few. I was pleasantly surprised at Videodrome. I'm not saying it was on a lot, but I checked, like, you know, the 4 or 5 that I saw, I think it was on 3 of them.
Oh, there you go.
And so, cool. Because of it, but it's again, that was not critically or commercially received well back in 83. I think it took some time to build this sort of following. And again, I think it also helps that when you've got a director that has a body of work that you want to follow. But Bob Clark Cronenberg kind of stayed in the same mold, which is why we love him and whatever. Whereas Bob Clark was all over the place. He gave you Black Christmas, and then a Total 180, A Christmas Story, and then in between you get Porky's, and of course we've got like Children Don't Play with Dead Things, or is that the right one? And Death Dream.
Correct.
I think I've got the right ones. Like, so he dabbled in horror for a bit, but then he kind of branched away and did some other like Baby Geniuses is the joke I always make.
Right, yeah. Baby Geniuses. It's funny. It's kind of like, what's his name did Spy Kids, right?
Robert Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah,
he did 4 of them.
Yeah, and then spawned 4. I know, it's freaking nuts, man. Yeah, which I've never seen any of them, by the way. But to have that power, like he's all over. He's all over the Star Wars miniseries. All of them. He's directed like a chunk of the episodes so him and Jon Favreau are in that world. So he's doing very well. Is he doing that new one, or did he do the Obi-Wan? I think I saw his name on Obi-Wan. So.
I think he had. Hey, I'll look while we're talking, but I think he dipped his dick in a few of them.
Okay.
Where did that saying come from? He dipped his dick.
That's a good expression. I like to dip my dick in a few of them. You know what I mean? That's good.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good one. I dip my dick in a few of them. You know? Nice. So, and I have not watched that new one, and I'm not rushing to watch it. Fucking Andor. It pisses me off. Another fucking name close to another one. First you had the midichlorian, and then you call the show the Mandalorian. Then you have Endor, and you're calling the show fucking Andor. Get more fucking creative. It just pisses me off, those names. Seriously. Granted, I love the Mandalorian, but sorry, go ahead.
The Book of Boba Fett. He was executive producer, so he was on that one for sure. And directing wise, it looks like the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. So he did one episode of the Mandalorian. Okay. And the Book of Boba Fett, he directed 3 episodes.
Okay.
So maybe all over is a bit of exaggeration.
But he still did dip his dick in a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
He dipped his dick in Boba Fett and the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You know? Hopefully not Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, but hey. Yeah. Maybe he did.
I'd put that. I'd be exaggerating. And then it looks like, no, this can't be still happening. Looks like the upcoming films of his are an Untitled Spy Kids project. Who knows? It says it's a post-production. and Machete Kills in Space, which I'm not sure if I know those movies always seem like I want to support these when they come out, but they never seem to get the support from the fans when they first came out. I think they kind of, the first one I think did okay, then the second one I don't think did as well. Again, I'm going my total memory here. So I know that they teased the third, but I can't imagine that happening. I bet that's been on his upcoming list for a long time now.
Fuck space. Fuck space. Seriously, I don't think I've ever watched a movie in space. No, you know what? The only good space movie, what the hell was it? Pigs in Space was probably the only thing I like. Anything in the title with in space, and that's not even a movie. That was a segment on fucking The Muppet Show back in the day. Pigs in Space. That was funny. Pigs in Space. Jews in Space. That was funny. The thing at the end of History of the World Part 1. Jews in Space. You know, but, which by the way, Part 2 is coming out as a show, and I wonder if Jews in Space is going to be on there. Who knows? But, yeah, what, anything.
A joke? Wait a second. Wasn't it a joke in one of the newer specials from Dave Chappelle? He goes, and I call it Space Jews. I swear.
Maybe
that was it. He goes on this whole thing. He goes on this whole plot point that sounds really bizarre and has nothing to do with what. And he goes, and I call that Space Jews. And then he does a callback to it later. But funny.
But he got that from Jews in Space, from History of the World Part 1. I know you know that, right?
Maybe that's true, because he did work with Mel Brooks way back when too. So maybe they're in cahoots together to make something come alive, because he was in Men in Tights, right? When he was still
was he now? I never saw Men in Tights. How's that?
A little lad. Yeah, he played Achu. I'm pretty sure that was his name.
A sneezer?
Yeah.
I never saw Men in Tights. You can tell where the joke
is going. In a Mel Brooks movie, you can see where it's going. And again, Men in Tights wasn't even Dracula Dead and Loving It. A little late, like that. I liked Dracula Dead and Loving It. I liked Men in Tights at the time, but I didn't love them. Like, you know, I haven't gone back to revisit them. But I'm that way. They're not in my collection of like must-have comedies or anything. Which is funny, because I think I just go back to the same kind of like, I guess, old horror too. I kind of just go back to the same vault and watch the same old comedy movies that I love.
Well, for Mel Brooks,
you know who brought it up? And again, his name keeps popping up in the show, and I got to stop talking about him. The fucking Missouri fuck. Chris A.K.A. Scott brought up 3 O'Clock High. I'm almost positive he brought. Do you remember that movie?
I watched it last February for the first time ever.
Maybe he did come up on the show before. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
I wonder if you would have loved it if you saw it back in the day. Now, again, I really like it. I don't know if loves it, but I remember that coming out. I remember that was like a big thing, and then the filming in it was very, very unique, because it was kind of Sam Raimi-esque with the way that they shot some of the things.
I don't remember much about it. I remember I always wanted to see it, and it was on my list. I was having that fun when I was down and out with COVID. I was playing that game where I was watching non-horror stuff, and I was going to movies from, you know, I don't know if you remember that I did this, but I put in all these years from, I think it ended in 2014 and started in like 1960, whatever it was. I was putting years in, and whatever year came up on the generator, I would go online. I would search for like an article written about the, recommended movies from that year. So I would see the top. Exactly. And that came up for whatever year they came up. That was on someone's top 10 list. And I was like, I always wanted to see 3 O'Clock High. So that's how I would do it. That's why I watched a lot of movies I watched last year. That's how I discovered them. Well, I didn't discover. Some of them I discovered the first time, but others I knew. And I was like, oh, yeah, I never saw that movie. And I always wanted to. This gave me the excuse. So I was like, okay. So I watched 3 O'Clock High, and I don't remember much about it. So, but I know I didn't dislike it. But
so it's about that big fight. Did you ever watch? I don't know why this movie popped into my head, but I think back like 80s movies that I watched when I was a kid that were like not the Rocky series, Rambo, and all the ones we've typically talked about. Did you ever watch My Bodyguard?
I was just gonna say My Bodyguard, because you were talking about 3 O'Clock High. It was about fights. It was about somebody being bullied. I used to love that movie because I thought I always loved Matt Dillon, and he was the bully.
Yeah.
His name was Moody. Yeah, and fucking. Yeah,
and Chris Makepeace,
I'd like you to meet
from
My Bodyguard. Anything you got to say?
Yeah.
Say it to him first. I used to fantasize about having. Actually, I did have bodyguards in school after that movie because I was a good talker, and I had money because my father had so much money and he always dealt in cash. So I would just always take money from him. So I always had money when I was a kid. And I would and I was a real punk when I was young.
That fucker over there. That's awesome.
And I was always friends with big kids, and I always was smart that way. Strong kids. But I had other guys that used to fuck with me, but I had it coming because I was spastic and fucking off the wall, and I was always trying to be the center of attention. And I did it in ways that were just probably annoying to fucking people. So I could see somebody wanting to kick my ass. But at the time, I was young and didn't know any better. So, but I would always say, I'm going to fucking have bodyguards, and fuck anybody fucks with me. I used to love that. Anything you got to say it to him first.
Did you ever have, like, we all had them. Like, there was this guy in high school. This guy was like 6'3", at least, maybe taller. But I'm talking about when we were in grade like 10. You know, like not like when he was 18. Like he was tall. I had to get fucking mustache and everything. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Obviously, we could all do it. I wasn't growing a mustache at age 10. If I was, it was like the 3 hairs that were coming out here and there. Barely had a hair on my nut. Anyway, this guy was like huge, and I might be forgetting the time frame, but I'm figuring it's grade 10. I'm thinking it's grade 10 and whatever. And I remember, I don't know, he was in one of my classes or two of my, and we hit it off really well. His name was Jeff, spelled like, I know so many Jeffs growing up, but spelled like, that unique way when it's Geoff.
I fucking hate that, but yeah.
And so his name was spelled like that. And it's funny, I know somebody that's named, it's supposed to be exactly like that. But growing up, all my other friends were Jeff. The old school way. Yeah. So then anyway, his was Geoff. And I don't know how but he was in my class. I guess I made him laugh because I was a class clown. But anyway, one day I was getting bullied, and I just remembered it because I don't remember ever being bullied, to be honest. But my mouth got me in trouble. Can you believe it? And I was Mr. String Beans. Like I was skinny, lanky, and whatever. And I'm walking around, and it was more words. And the guy's like, "Hey, what'd you say to me? What'd you say to me?" And I just remember Geoff comes up and put his hand on the guy's shoulder and goes, "Why are you bugging my friend Christian?" And I'm like, and then whatever, he goes, "If you have anything to say to me, you can say it. Say to him, you can say it to me." Kind of like that fucking my bodyguard thing. That just reminded me of it. From you saying it, and then the guy's like, "No, all good." And then he went into the class. Never again. I don't even remember what it was, but I usually my problem is I would make anybody laugh. Doesn't matter at what expense it came at. That's the problem. I still have that kind of. I'm like, I really want to crack this joke right now. It's probably not the best idea for my career, for my friendship, for whatever. But I gotta crack it. I gotta get that laugh. And I don't know why, but that's the way I was wired. And so I think the joke would have been at this guy's expense in a class, and because it's not against me to have done that. It's not like I did it to everything. It's not that.
Me too.
I didn't like this. Someone could probably say I was a bully then to him or whatever. I guess they could turn it around in this day and age, but this came from me just making jokes about everything. And I guess he didn't take it well. I can't remember the context, but I just remember that guy. And I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then like, I remember being like, friends in more like acquaintances. We never went out and hung out or anything like that. But I thought, wow, that's awesome. I got this guy protecting me.
That is great,
no cell phones at that time. No pagers, nothing. It was like, how do I call you? Do I have to put like a bat symbol, like a Batman symbol up into the air and you come running? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I could use you.
What the hell? That happened in a movie this year, The Black Phone. Did you see The Black Phone?
Yeah.
Remember the guy came in the bathroom and he says, "Don't fuck with him anymore." But they were friends, but still.
Yeah, and again, he was just more of that tough guy. This guy was substantially taller. Like I'm talking about, like I'm not, as we've discussed, we're not tall. But back then, I was definitely not even as like I don't know 5 something, but like lower and whatever. And he was like a good, head and shoulders above everybody else.
Dude. That's awesome. I always had big friends for some reason. I always felt bad for fat kids that got picked on. I never picked on a fat kid, but I did have especially nice ones, like someone that's not bothering anybody. You know what I mean? I always felt bad for people that mess with overweight kids. But it was like when I was young, when I was in like grammar school, elementary, whatever, K through 6, back then I was a spaz and I got bullied because of it, but I deserved it because I had ADHD. I was bouncing. There was other kids worse than me that ended up having to go to special ed full time. I wasn't on that level. They tried to do that to me, but I went in the office and said, no, I don't want to go in this class with these people. I'm not like that. I go, fuck. I'm smarter than that. I just have to apply myself, and I understand. Bottom line is, they thought that I was like maybe fucking borderline, low IQ. Which I'm not, but I just acted out and did this. So anyway, but I knew I wasn't them. They tried to put me in some classes with them, and I noticed like 4 periods in, I'm like, what the fuck? I got the same guys every period, and I figured it out for myself. I go, I'm not these fucking guys. And there was nobody. I didn't want to talk to them because they were geeks. So even though I had popular friends, and I wasn't a geek. I knew that these guys, I didn't want to fuck with them. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but I was a kid. This is the way my thought process was going at the time. It's like, okay, so by the time I got to 7th grade, that's when I repeated. And then I hung out with a bunch of other kids because, I repeated the grade. So now I'm making new friends in 7th grade. This is now junior high school, middle school, if you will. So we're doing that. And I kind of became a bully because it got to the point that I'm like, it's either bully or be bullied. Unless you're an athlete or you're super popular or something else for other reasons, that's fine.
I was neither.
Well, there you go. This is what I'm saying. But I was friends with everybody because of the music I listened to. So because I could relate to everybody. You know what I mean? The metalheads, this and that, the preps, the fucking... So everybody...
I was the weird, occasionally funny horror guy. Like, I was the one that had, like... There was only 2 of us, 2 or 3 of us in the school that had, like, horror shit up in their lockers.
I was known for it, right?
Yeah, so I was like that, and then oh my god, I think I'm off the fucking charts here. Sorry, everybody. Then of course, being the smartass, which I prided myself on.
But and I was spastic still a little bit. It just doesn't leave you till for years. You got to learn to control your shit, and then you got to settle yourself down. So I was bouncing off the wall.
Tourette's.
But right. But I had a nickname for everybody, and every nickname I gave everybody, the kids I hung out with, they thought it was the funniest thing. This guy was Potato Head. This guy was fucking Dog Eyes. This guy was even my best friends, like my buddy Scott that I see every fucking Friday night. I had a million names for him, starting with Pig and this, the Black Cowboy. I'm telling you, I had about 50 nicknames for him and my other buddy Rich.
Black?
No, but his accent made him sound like a black cowboy. Sometimes he would say certain things, dude. I'm fucked up. So bottom line is I had nicknames for everybody, even people that I loved, and I would even pick on people I loved. And I picked on my brother. He was 7 years younger. Yeah, it's like a rite of passage. But anyway, but I had nicknames for everybody was ultimately, and I there were a couple kids that I bullied, but it was like I kind of flipped it. I was like, well, you're either going to be on one end or the other. So I did do it. Looking back now, you do feel bad for it. But again, I was bullied myself. So it's like, well, I don't feel too terrible because it happened to me.
I was never physical. That's the problem. I couldn't fight. Didn't want to fight. Never wanted to get in a physical altercation. So my way of dealing with it was I got to be, maybe quick-witted. Again, it's all relative, and if you think I'm quick-witted. But I mean, I crack a joke, get it out there. That was my weapon. The downfall of that is, remember the sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Yeah. Well, add fists and feet to that. And yeah, my jokes only, I think, fueled the fire. But hey,
of course,
I got to be me. I don't know. There's 2 stories. There's 2 stories I got to tell that I think are kind of funny. They sort of relate. It's kind of weird. One of them is just another story that happened in school. Wasn't with me. I think I may have possibly even told both on the show before. So I apologize, listeners. But if Dave can't remember them, then you can't remember them. That's how I'll put it. So one of them, I walk into a classroom, and I swear it was my buddy Jeff, Jeff, and another guy named Scott. And they came in, they sat down, we're in there. They had a bit of an altercation. Something happened before. I don't know why. And again, this is just, I know we're talking about fights, but this is like not norm. It wasn't the norm. Our school wasn't like, our school was called Ken and Barbie High. Like we weren't like a fighting school or anything like that, but these stories are just like that. They were just sitting in there. I swear, I'm not exaggerating this story one iota. Soccer, hockey, soccer, hockey, soccer, hockey. And they just start fighting. And I was like, what? And I had to break it up. There's no teacher. The teacher was late. And they just started saying,
fight?
Yeah, I was like, well, it's my buddy.
I would never
do
that.
Well, there was my buddy there and whatever. So I'm just like, I know he wasn't getting hurt, but I'm like, I don't need him suspended or anything either. So I'm like trying to like separate him. I'm going, what the fuck are you guys doing? Plus, what the fuck was that? Soccer, hockey.
Yeah, weird.
Like, my buddy Jeff was saying hockey because he was a hockey fan, and Scott being like, I mean, at the time, I guess soccer wasn't as popular, but still, soccer, soccer, hockey. That was what escalated to blows, and not the good type. It was crazy, and that is a true story. I said when we were doing ideas to do that sketch comedy show, that I said we've done that episode that I can never air now because it just would never. In this day and age with woke culture, there's no way this show could air. There's just no way. Which it doesn't matter because it was made so long ago now. Nothing's ever going to happen with it. But one of the sketches I said is that's all I wanted. Cut to a classroom. One kid says, I just wanted to recreate it because it's so freaking bizarre and stupid. I'm like, it's hilarious. Like that would be funny to see. Like just like again, no explanation. You just cut in soccer, hockey, and then just escalate to a fight and then cut away. No explanation. That was what the show was. I always liked that. Like, whereas Saturday Night Live to me, they've got some good ideas, but they fucking stay on the joke way too long, which is why I can't watch Saturday Night Live.
I haven't watched it since the 90s.
Oh, fuck, man. Everybody talks about this sketch and that sketch. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about because I'm with you. I watch it so infrequently. I actually never watch it live. If anything, it's because some hoopla of something happened, and I gotta check it out on wherever you can check it out because usually they're so tight on that they don't allow it on YouTube.
I didn't even know it was still on. I mean, I know it was still on, but I never hear a word about it. And I've been thinking I'll talk later about it because I watched a documentary on Belushi, and that's another story. But continue. Yeah. Soccer, hockey. Okay, I'm gonna add this to it. There had to have been.
Go ahead. Sorry.
There had to have been a precursor to that. There must have been a discussion. Another time between those two that you maybe the class before and you weren't there, and maybe someone said, oh, I love soccer, and this kid, fucking soccer sucks, hockey is what it's all about, and then something happened, then the class ended. That's the way I would see it. It started somewhere else.
Well, it has to be.
Right.
Well, you're right. There's had to be something because I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Because why would you just randomly say soccer into the fucking air out of nowhere? I'm going to do that today. I'm going to go to Tim Hortons.
Soccer.
I'm going to go to Tim Hortons and fucking sit down. And out of nowhere, I'm going to.
And basketball never reared its head. It's the fucking football and basketball were left out cold.
Well, now I don't want to talk about soccer. I don't want to get negative.
That's fine.
Let's get to the other story.
The other story again. You're talking about slow and this, that, and the other thing, and being with this. And again, I think I've told this. I apologize, guys. I'll try to tell the shorter version because if my wife makes me tell the story, she lets me go on and on and on, and not embellish, but just go into like as if I'm reliving it in real time. So when I was first graduated in high school, so year 2000 for sure, I know that for a fact. I went into I left school and moved to Toronto. 2000? This is where I met my wife in year 2000. Yeah.
You graduated high school in 2000?
Wait.
No, I graduated in 91.
No. I graduated college, university at this point. I'm talking about
You said high school.
Okay. Sorry, no.
I was like, wait a minute, who am I talking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm older. I'm older than that. You know that. So then, sorry, I'm very slow.
He's just that stupid.
He had the audacity to call me slow. It took me 10 years slow. To graduate. Right.
It's true. You were slow. You're just realizing it now. I gotta tell you.
I'm that slow. I didn't realize how slow I was.
Yeah, you thought each grade, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 were actually 2 years. You didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and we had 13 back then too. We had always we had a fifth year of high school.
Did you have kindergarten?
Yep, and now we had just regular kindergarten. Now it's split into JK and SK, junior and senior kindergarten, so that you can get into the education system at age 4 to help. Like I think it also helps. Well, it's from an educational standpoint, but it's really not much in the way of education happening there. But I think it's to get them out of daycare so you don't have to, you can save some fucking money and get them in the school system a little earlier. It's not mandatory JK, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, it gets them socializing, it gets them out in an environment, it gets them used to school. But half day every day or full day every second day type thing. That's how it works. Anyway.
JK, just kidding.
Year 2000. I just met Carrie. We were dating at the time. We were like, we're dating sporadically. It was like off and on, and well, not off and on, but we were just dating.
You were dipping your dick in a few places, actually, right? Whatever that slogan we said before was. What was it?
So I know I told the story that one of my first gigs. So coming out of there, I was a production assistant on Relic Hunter, but not on the actual show part. My job was to go house sit Tia Carrera's house, waiting for deliveries to happen. I've told this, haven't I? Told this on the story.
No, I would have remembered Tia.
So Tia Carrera, because everybody first thing they said is, "Did you sniff her panty drawer?" I'm like, "Hey, that's disgusting." And B, no, she hadn't moved in yet. That was the whole point of me being there. Is she wasn't there yet. She was due to come in like that the next day or 2 days later, but they had to get the phone installed. There's all these flower deliveries and everything else. And I was bored. I was just sitting in this house waiting.
You jerked off in her bedroom, waiting for her. I didn't sniff her panty drawer, but I jerked off in her room. Okay.
No, nothing exciting. That's not even the story. This is a really long build-up to the actual story. So that was my first gig, and I remember it because American Beauty just hit video, and I had already said I loved that movie. Like when I saw it in the theater, I thought it was amazing. So it just hit video, and I rented it, and I had it in my hands. And waiting, I'm like, okay, well, I might as well use the VCR that's here in the TV. I watched American Beauty while I was waiting for all this stuff to be done.
Wow.
So that was my first gig. Cut to the second gig, which was actually on a set, and it was like a margarine commercial. So then stop me if I've told this before, because I won't bore everybody about it. But ultimately, we were filming in downtown Toronto, and I guess it wasn't for the necessarily the Canadian market or whatever it would be. So they wanted to make sure that if a streetcar went by, because it was on a street with a streetcar, they didn't want to see the TTC logo there or whatever. And plus, it makes noise because it's a streetcar.
They wanted to say Desire on it, didn't they?
Whatever. Yeah, I don't know what they wanted to say, but they didn't want that to be there, so they just didn't want it in the frame. So they needed someone on streetcar duty, and it was a production assistant, me, the radio and the whole team to say like streetcar. There's a streetcar coming, streetcar, and whatnot. So that every time they're getting ready to shoot, they'd be like, "How are we doing?" I'm like, "Okay, we're good." Okay, they take a take, whatever. I'm like, "Oh, streetcar." They're like, "Okay, thank you." Okay, streetcar. That's what I would have to do into this damn microphone constantly.
Okay.
Then so it was like that for I don't know, like an hour. We stop. I'm right standing on the street there. All the agency comes off the bus, which is like who represents the product. They sit with the director and everything like that else, and they'll chime in if they have something that they want their product shine in a different light or whatever it may be. But ultimately, they hopefully are quiet and let the production team do what they need to do. But this woman comes up to me and says, puts her hand on my shoulder. It says, "Are you the young man that was screaming streetcar?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "You're doing a real good job." And then she just looks at me and walks away. And I was like, all like just so happy. I was just like smiling. I'm like, huh. And then all of a sudden this like feeling washes over me like, oh shit. She thinks I'm slow.
Oh! Do you really think that was
absolutely the case? Because there was like a streetcar. I was so into it because it was my first gig, and I again, I'm not exaggerating. I try not to do anything half-assed. I really try not to do anything half-assed. I'm like all in. I wanted to move up and do whatever. I think it was just my excited energy yelling streetcar for an hour. The way she said it, like the way she put her hand of reassurance on my shoulder and looking me in the eyes and saying, like, I mean, hey, you want that reinforcement in life? But that was like, she, no question, thought that I was a slow adult.
Wow. That's fucking great. You were probably fucked up the rest of that day.
That was like, when it was like, just this feel of just, I was like, like, I just couldn't believe it.
Right.
I've been recognized out of the gate for another, like, and it was like that sort of vision just dissipated immediately going, wait a second. I think I'm slow.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Streetcar. He kept yelling it. Oh my God.
Loves that story.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And she goes really crazy with the streetcars, but I'm it's not above me. Like that's my problem is like I want everything to be great. So if I'm coming out to help, I assume everybody wants help, but they don't always want that. Like on another production shoot, it was like a shit breeder, nothing fucking short film. Like I don't mean to discredit this person, but it wasn't high fucking art. They were probably doing I don't know what they were doing, but there's 3 productions happening. And this guy was doing it, and it wasn't all that great because I saw the finished product. But when it was filming, I happened to go to the director. I said, "Hey, that's not the same as what you did the scene before." I'm just, as a heads up for continuity wise, you might want to whatever. He's, whatever. All of a sudden, the assistant director comes over to me and says, "Did you just talk to the director or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I just was mentioning." He goes, "Oh, that's fine. Whatever. If there's any issues, just come talk to me. Just let me know about it." I didn't realize the hierarchy. I guess there's a way you're supposed to talk to people on a set and whatever. And I was just like some lowly temp PA helping on the shit fucking breeder short film that no one's ever seen. That's a piece of fucking garbage and whatever. I'm only being extra critical of it because I thought that was such an assholey thing to do. This guy's a nobody. And even if he was a somebody, just say, "Hey, thank you." I was green. I had no clue the hierarchy, whatever. But we're talking about a nothing 5-minute short or 10-minute short.
Yeah, it's not fucking Martin Scorsese.
The director happened to be standing right beside me, and I was so giddy. And I was like looking at it, and I go, "Hey, that's wrong. That was different from the other way. I don't know if they need to match or whatever." I was just chiming in, not to be a smart ass, not to be a know-it-all. I thought it was helping, and then I get kind of reprimanded in, I guess, the best, most professional way they can do it. Maybe I'm still being an asshole about it, but I remember going, "Oh fuck, okay, if you don't want help, I'm not going to help." But that's fine. But I could tell they didn't change anything, so they weren't listening anyway. So fuck his movie.
Well, yeah, it's his artistic vision, I guess.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. I didn't even mean to tell that story, but I guess it was just to back up the, like, when I get onto thing and I want to help, I want to actually like do something to help the production that I'm on. Sometimes you don't realize it. You quickly learn. Like when I was commercial, and I learned a lot from that director. This guy was an older guy, and I'm like, I'm gonna copy. Like, I loved his demeanor on set. He would go and ask people he's like, to the cinematographer, permission to look through your camera, sir. The cinematographer's like, yeah. I'm like, holy fuck, that's awesome. Like, just that level of respect and dedication. I'm like, that's a director. Now, I don't even know who that guy's name is, but I remember his demeanor, and he didn't carry himself with any weird aura. It wasn't a fucking no budget short film. They were making a Sears national campaign commercial, and we were in the freezing cold filming it, and whatever. And I just remember his demeanor on set. I'm like, that's a professional. That's how I would want to be.
Absolutely.
Permission to look through your camera, sir. Or look through your lens, and just the other way that he would interact with people. It was great.
That is great.
And on another side note, I'm not 100% sure. I just have a very vivid memory that I think Zack Schneider, who's big now, I believe that he was directing one of the other commercials that I was like a production assistant on, because I remember him saying that he directed some Green Day videos and some other videos, and that he's doing this as well. He was awesome. And I'm almost positive he bought my buddy. My buddy was also on set, and he had his band Broomfiller, and he's like, "Well, bring a CD, I'll buy it from you." He's like, "Oh, I'll give you one." He bought it from him. He said, "No, if this is $10, here's $10 and whatever." And I remember him being really respectful on set too. Again, I'm not 100% sure it was him. It's just I remember his name being Zachary, and it looked like who it was. And when I looked through the filmography of Zack Snyder, I'm like, holy fuck. This, it doesn't say the commercial that he was doing. He just, directed various commercials and music videos and whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost positive it's him, but I'll never be able to validate that or confirm it. But just based on what he said he directed, and then what happened thereafter. And I remember him being a really cool guy too.
Wasn't he involved with Trauma, or am I wrong?
No, that's James Gunn.
I always confuse them. Zack Snyder, James Gunn.
It's totally different names.
Did they both do superhero movies or some shit?
Yeah. He did Watchmen, and he's done the Justice League. He's done the ones that a lot of people shit on now, like like Justice League and Batman versus Superman.
Okay, so he's done DC's.
Yeah, A lot
Who's
of
that? Snyder or Gunn?
Snyder. And Gunn has done Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's why I confuse them, because they both did horror movies and they both did
and Gunn
comics.
And came from Trauma.
Yeah, I knew one of them came from Trauma because I knew he made some tweet and freaking it was considered not PC now or something, and they got in hot water for about a minute, but all the horror fans defended him, and that was that.
Yeah, and again, I can't, like, I'm just saying that these are the things that you dealt with. I even remember being on it was a Rogers commercial, like a cable company, and the director was so cool in that one. He came right up to me. He's like, I don't know why I'm here. I go, I don't know why they wasted the money for a director. It's one fucking shot. It's a static shot. The whole gimmick of this was that they filmed a guy standing on a ladder, so you'd see him from lower waist down, standing on a ladder, and then a satellite dish falls from out of frame and smashes to the ground, and then it cuts to like, hey, tired of hard installs and bad reception or whatever, switch to like Rogers Cable. That was the commercial. He's like, they don't need a director. It's one fucking shot. They need the cinematographer that will frame it and light it and then get input from the agency to say, yeah, we like what we're seeing, done. But that just goes to show you, the guy even had the wherewithal to say, I'm not needed here. But
someone has to give the orders. Doesn't somebody have to tell you what to do?
Well,
they give the cinematographer that fucking privilege here. You go do it.
I think what it is you're right. Well, there are producers on it too, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I guess producers.
There's a producer. So the director and the producer sort of become the liaison between. Well, the producer sometimes is on set, sometimes not. In a commercial side things, I don't know about feature film. I believe it's the same. Typically, they're silent and offset. But anyway, the director would be the liaison between the team. Sometimes in these situations and the agency, because the agency, like I said, are like you work for like the company. And you're there saying, how's my product going to look on this thing? And so they could get a little, everybody wants to be a director, right? So they could get a little lippy and say, oh, we want this, that. Okay, just here's what we're going to do. Just don't worry, we're going to be in, we're going to be out. Just bear with me, because remember, there's editing and everything else. So they kind of ease it back and get the production rolling and whatever. But I remember being paid for a full day. That was a beautiful shoot, because you get paid for the full 12 hours or whatever, but we only worked 6 hours. Or something like that. So it was a great day. Those are the things I remember. Didn't even mean to go on that tangent, but that's the shit I remember. And again, varying degrees of interaction with the different directors. Most of them were super cool and weren't fucking assholes. But every now and then, you just like life, I guess, you get an asshole. Well, and they're usually the ones that are doing fucking nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. Let me ask you, the guy that was an asshole for the short film, right? The director. Yeah. Have you ever looked him up to see if he
remember. I remember Green was his last name, but I cannot remember if it was spelled with an extra E. And I tried years ago.
What did you say his name was?
His last name was Green. I can't remember his
Green?
first name.
It's not, what's his name? Is it Adam Green?
No.
Imagine if it was. He found out now. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It could have been Adam Green.
Did you do some shit Preeter short in a that was done in a warehouse? Well, of course it was done in a warehouse. It was a sound station. They just made it look. It was dollied up to be like an art museum. Like.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Okay, so
no, I mean I did work on a couple of like The Donor, which was a made for TV thriller that came out like in the late 90s or early 2000s. I can't remember what it was. And again, every other set I was on, for the most part, it was pretty professional. There's only one guy that I can understand his thing was, and I don't remember his name either. His movie was premiering at fucking Sundance, but he was here filming a commercial. So he was always on his always on his phone, which they weren't as sophisticated as they are now. So you're texting back on your black or whatever it was, and he was trying to get like information on what the fuck was happening with his film. So he was kind of distant from the set there, but I'd be like, I don't blame him. Fucking his movies at Sundance, like someone's kind of a prima donna. I also, two side stories. I think I told this before when we talked about American History X. That director, because he kind of got, if you remember, did he do Boondock Saints as well? Am I right with that? Or am I confusing the director? All I know is that after American History X, I think he had kind of like an ego, so he was kind of cut down a little bit. Again, guys, I'm I played around with reality here. I'm not entirely sure if this is true. Not Tony Blair, but whatever his name is. Tony Blair is, I think, a prime minister of England, an ex-prime minister of England. But anyway, whatever the director's name
Tony
is.
Kaye.
Tony Kaye. He was a director in a commercial. He seemed okay, but we're doing a director of a commercial, and I could tell all he wanted to do was get in the pants of this extra that was on set.
Oh, boy.
I could tell. There's no question.
No shit.
And then another director, I think it was Christoph Hans, the guy that directed Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill. He was, I don't think I was on his commercial shoot, but he came in when they were doing editing, and I met him, and he was great. He was a really nice guy from the 2-second, 5-second interaction I had with him. But again, I didn't just interact with him. I also watched him as we were doing the editing process on something there too. And I thought he was really cool.
Nice.
That's it. Those are that. I don't know where that came from, me being a slow adult.
Well, I was looking at this guy, Tony Kaye. He didn't do a lot. He did a real, a couple of videos and stuff. Red Chili Peppers, Danny California. He did some other things, but then he did like Lake of Fire in 2006, which is like an 8.2 on the B. It's a documentary about both sides of the abortion debate. So he got involved there. Johnny Cash, he did a thing. Lobby Lobster, I don't know what that is. Blackwater Transit 7.0, crime drama. So he's done Beverly D'Angelo. So he reunited with her for American History X. Detachment, I don't know what the hell that is. It's a drama. 7.7. Adrian Brody, Christina Hendricks, Lucy Liu. Wow. So he is still doing some things, but they're. You're right, though. I mean,
that happened after American History X. There was a bit of a break from the movies. I don't know if he felt like he got screwed. I thought there was a documentary on this too, so maybe there's something we could check out. But I think it was documented as well. But yeah,
he said something
there's just some people that are hard asses. Like there are directors out there that we've heard of, like the Stanley Kubricks of the world, that are just, they demand. I mean, I'm not putting them in the same, but I'm just saying that personality type that just demands another level. See, I don't think I could ever do that. Does that make you a bad director? Not necessarily. No, absolutely not. We know that there's other lighter approach, but that heavy, hard ass approach is definitely a route that some people take. And I think he was one that took it. Again, if I'm not misinterpreting what I saw, read, or heard.
No, it even says here his favorite director is Stanley Kubrick. So it's funny you should say that. Right. And he was 45 years old when he directed his first feature, American History X, 1998.
See, that's what always brings us hope. Even though I'm older than that benchmark already too, it's always good to see. Hey, I watched Smile finally, which I really enjoyed. I thought that it was really good. I think my only, again, not getting into the subtext of it, or not going to do a full review or whatever. Again, my quibble is when they show the monster at the end. I'm like, really? Even my daughter and I, we started laughing a little bit. I'm like, couldn't they have done something different? It reminded me of that witchy running thing that came down the avenue in It Chapter 2 that I went on a tangent about. It's such a small portion of the movie, but it's integral that if you set up your tone and your theme and you've got us in, you hooked us, and then something takes us out of the movie like that, it makes me laugh. It didn't hinder my score too much overall, but that, when it becomes a giant sort of brooding monster, I found it silly.
I didn't even interpret that as being the monster. I just interpreted that as
it was like an offshoot of her mom, but it should have just they could have still kept it as her mom or some other.
Oh, that part. I thought you meant the fire thing that happened after. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And the fire too, yeah. All that. I just was like, it's just a small mar on an otherwise very good film that I was very happy with. I'm just saying that everything, because I thought it was, to be honest, I didn't watch the preview. I knew the marketing campaign, which was genius. I didn't watch the preview. I was going in this fairly blind, and I thought it was going to be way sillier. I thought it was going to be a little bit more campy. So with the serious tone and the creepiness, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm in. This is great. And it was a serious movie, and I was very happy for it. So then this kind of goofy end, and again, I interpreted it as goofy. Maybe other people didn't, which is fine. But again, it took me out. It just took me out a little bit. It's just my hang up, but that was my only little nitpick. But again, didn't hinder the movie horribly for me, but both my daughter and I laughed. Christian thought it was scary. Not that particular point, but the movie itself. I'm like, yeah, it is scary. It's well done.
I didn't even give it a second thought when I saw it. I saw it, and I remember she got bigger and her hands were on the ceiling or something, and she was coming. But it didn't.
Once you see the face, it's almost like I wish they kept. Again, I didn't direct the movie. I get it. And again, I think he did a great job. I'm just saying, because he had such a great thing, that if you saw the hands, because it was kind of very scary that way, and you didn't really see the face, then it comes out for the scary. It almost should have just been a smile that illuminates in the light or something. That would have been fucking terrifying. Like, he did a great job throughout. It's my nitpick. It's my hang up. But again, it took me out of the movie.
That sucks. Because
the look and the fire were my only two hang-ups. But I love the way it ended too. Loved it.
Indeed. And I was just, I think I was too into the story, and in that particular scene, what was going to ultimately happen, that it didn't take me out because I didn't really give it a focus. I was just like, okay, I was more trying to see what was going to happen next than to focus on what was happening at that second. I was like, okay, this happened. Now what's going to happen? So it didn't resonate, which is odd.
Hear me out.
Wow.
You know, we always have this is the year of that. This is the year of that. This is the year of mainstream. This is the year of mainstream horror again.
And
like horror that went and I'm saying there's not. I'm not saying there's not good indie horror. There's great indie horror as well. But I'm saying that the mainstream kind of knocked it out of the park this year.
Agreed. I think a lot of people say that too.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm not treading new ground. I'm just saying, I'm just saying
people are agreeing.
And you know what's even more impressive? I looked at this guy's filmography because I found out that there was a short on YouTube, which I watched after the movie, and I enjoyed it. Which would spot. He did 2 fucking short movies, Dave. He did a short movie in 2018 and a short movie in 2020 or 19 that came out in 20. That was the inspiration for Smile. Paramount saw it, had a South and Southwest Film Festival, saw it, and that's what eventually they, I guess, approached him to say, could you do a feature-length version, which became Smile. That's his filmography. Wow. I don't know his history yet, but he wrote and directed those 2 shorts and then got this movie, and that movie cleaned up at the box office. There's no question, but launching this guy's career, that's amazing. Because again, he may have gone to film school, but credited on the IMDb was just there's 2 shorts and Smile. Wow. So awesome.
So it can happen to people. It can happen, you know, which is awesome. Wow. And now I'm going to look for that scene next time I watch it. But back to this guy, Tony K. This is what happened. 1998, same year as American History X. This is the controversy, and I don't know why he would do this. Tony filed a $275 million lawsuit against New Line and the Directors Guild of America for not letting him use the pseudonym Humpty Dumpty as the director of American History X. How the fuck are you going to sabotage your career and sue New Line and the Directors Guild because you don't want your name there? You want to call yourself Humpty Dumpty.
Is it because you didn't get Final Cut? That's really weird because, I mean, that movie has gotten, again, it was like lukewarm to great reviews at the time. Like every movie, I guess there's like, people are all over the place, and that's why critics can suck it. Like you guys listen to our show, and you've disagreed with me, you've agreed with me. You disagreed with Dave, you've agreed with Dave. That's life. Like, I mean, we all have our. That's what makes it fun, I guess, and whatever. And again, if we get riled up, it's because it's hopefully because of the passion and not because we actually throw that much weight into it. I don't think I get off this call with Dave and then I'm reeling for the day because we didn't agree on the craft. God no. But when we're talking about it on the show, yeah, there's going to be some roller coaster to it. But that's fucking crazy that he would do that. I do recall that now that you've read that. I remember this, whether again from reading it or from seeing some sort of documentary on him. But yeah, it's odd. It's really odd. But there are people like that.
There's more. There's more, but this is like 8 paragraphs long, and I can't read it all. But I'll just say this. This is something he said. This is like 2 paragraphs or so. My problem all through American History X is that I could never tell anyone what I wanted to do with the film. Sometimes I didn't even know myself. More often I was intimidated by the process that I went into meltdown if I wasn't left alone to work things out. Of course, if you actually listen to what Norton was saying, you could hear that none of it made sense in filmmaking terms. That's not his forte. As you'll know if you saw the movie that he directed, Keeping the Faith. Pretty fucking awful. Hardly covers that one. So he dissing Norton. Okay. As a director. Okay, but then he says, The version of American History X that got released was 40 minutes longer than my cut. I had done a hard, fast 95-minute rough diamond of a picture, but the movie they put out was crammed with shots of everyone crying in each other's arms. And of course, Norton had generously given himself more screen time. So there's fucking beef right there. Yeah. And there's more to it. I couldn't read it all.
Because Norton, I guess, had maybe come off of The People versus Larry Flint and Primal Fear before he did that?
I don't know.
Or was that his first one?
It wasn't his first, but it said that Norton was, what do you call it? He was the golden boy at the time, and that he hadn't done a heel.
He won the Academy Award for, I think it was one of those two movies. I think it was People versus Larry Flint. He plays the...
I don't think that was out yet. I think that came after this stuff. Because I'm quite into Norton. So let me see here, though. Fight Club was 99. Primal Fear was 96. So Primal Fear was before. All right.
I'm pretty sure People versus Larry Flint was before as well. 96 or 97. They all came out roughly at the same time because he was, as you call him, the golden boy. He was a new kid on the block, but I heard he is difficult. I heard wasn't he in Ang Lee's? No, he wasn't Ang Lee's. He was Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the first one.
No, he's in one of them, but then he didn't. He gave it up to, like, there are certain people that just don't jive with certain things and whatever. And sometimes I respect them for the decisions. Sometimes I'm like, what are you thinking? But again, to each their own. They do things that they want to do and figure it out. And I mean,
you're right. You're right. Primal Fear and People vs. Larry Flint, both 96. Then American History X. Then Rounders. Then Fight Club. Okay. All right. How about that? No shit. For some reason, I thought the Larry Flint was after. But it wasn't that big of a part, right? When he was in Larry Flint?
No, he was a supporting actor. He was...
I've only seen it once.
I think he was the lawyer.
Okay, he was the lawyer. That's right. Because I saw it the one time because he was in it and because of Woody was in it. Those are two of my favorite actors. So I was like all about that. But yeah, wow, how about that shit? Interesting. Everyone Says I Love You, which I didn't see. That was a romantic or comedy musical romance. Came out also in 96. He was busy in 96, Norton. Wow, no shit. So you, all this stuff that you did, you could have ended up like Jeremy. It sounds like everything that Jeremy did was all the same stuff you did, but now it's a full-time gig for him.
Okay.
Where he's doing even more.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. And again,
I'm just curious.
How do I word this that I don't look like it? I admit, like,
you didn't have any connections?
I didn't have the want or will to mingle. Like, I do that more now. I say I do more in that mingling and connection thing now that I'm older, possibly wiser, should be wiser now, but not in the film world, just in the world that I'm in now for work. I'm like, if I did this maybe back in the film days, that would have been it. But like everything in my life, I'm a late bloomer. I think I just do things differently. I'm also was like going to commercial shoots, working with 40-year-olds at the time. Remember, that seemed old to me. And again, I almost positive brought this up on the show. And I was in my mid-20s and going, you know what? I don't want to be 40 doing a PA job or whatever. And I wasn't connecting that maybe they just had no ambition in life, that they just had, or I don't want to, like,
you don't think they make good money? Fucking PA?
Well, no, they made the same money that I did. I'm talking about the people that were doing the same job that I did. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? But I just wasn't linking, I was like, again, the way my mind works is like, I want to be here yesterday. And again, that's not how it works in reality. And so I'm not going to direct out of the gate. You got to go through the whole process. And I was probably I was starting to get more second AD gigs, which was like you were wrangling the talent, whether it be from the airport, whether it be on set to go, hey, Christian, can you go grab so-and-so from the trailer? Boom, you bring him out. And we're talking about fucking Hanes commercials for underwear and shit like that. We're not talking anything. Right. I was in the commercial TV world at this point. Like I said, features, film stuff, no. I was only on like a shoot when I was at school still doing a kind of like a co-op or a placement to help out for like on hire for a day or 2 days of the film set. And that's why I did the feature film, The Donor, and then the short film that was like that shipbreeder one that I'm talking about. Anyway, so then going back, I didn't have the gift. My gift was like hate, so like I just be listening, try to absorb everything, but I wanted to get to directing, assistant directing or directed right away. And there's a process. And I was just starting, but I, like everything in my life, if it's not happening at the speed that I want it to happen at, I get bored. And then I got engaged, and I'm not blaming my engagement. I'm like, I got to work consistently and full time, not know where my next paycheck's going to come from, or if I'm going to have 8 days off or whatever, and then budget. So then I started working full time at the wine industry, and doing film when I could, like here and there and whatever. Right. But then I started pushing the film away because I had focused on my career, and that's fine because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. A lot of them end up going, they have aspirations to be directors, but they just do things differently. Like, it's no different than me. I gave up. I had aspiration to be a director. I went into a different field altogether. So who am I to say? But they end up being electrics, gaffers, whatever, which is fine. Yeah, which is A-okay. And maybe they finance enough. What they've done, which is key and which is different, is they stay in contact with everybody. I lost all my contacts. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm friends with certain people on Facebook, but to reach out to them would be like a grab now. Like, hey, we're filming this, I'm doing a movie, you want to help? Sure, they'll be willing to help, but it would be like a blast from the past for them, getting like this email from or message from somebody that they haven't really conversed with in ages, whereas they stayed in the industry. They've got connections. Right. They do like the 24-hour film challenge all the time and whatever. I just, didn't do that. I wanted to do my own thing, which was not anything to do with film. So I only have myself to blame with that, which is fine. You're just willing to deal with it. But this is why, sorry, I keep hitting my mic, which is why I do want to make this a movie at some point. But then I still want to do the feature. It's got to be, I think it's because I put this sort of like bet on myself that at some point I got to do a feature. That's why I'm not interested in doing a short film, which probably is the easier thing to do, of just limiting everything to a certain location, 2-3 actors and whatever. Makes more sense, but why make sense of it? Why not just go for broke at this point?
Hey man, I'm with you, and I wanted to direct a feature my entire life. So, dude, I'm telling you, I have so many movies that I made in the 80s, and I did it all. I had the ideas for the movie. I told people what parts they were going to play. I told them what they were going to say. I came up with, I basically wrote, produced, and directed 12 hours of movies when I was a kid. All I was doing was walking around with the camera, filming it, every fucking thing. I was the lead. I was always I was the feature
Voices,
of fucking everything. Dude, I'm telling you, if you saw this stuff, granted, I was a kid. I was anywhere between the ages of fucking 13 and 17, and it was stupid shit. But it was still stuff that I came up with, and I put everybody in, my younger brother, his friends, my friends, this. I did stuff for people at school. People would come to me at school when they wanted somebody to make a movie for a project. They would say, hey, can you help me out with it? So I have always had this thing.
It was liquid gold because nobody did it back then. I think we've joked about this on the show before. If you had to write something and I said, hey, can I make this a movie? And it was almost a guaranteed A because nobody fucking else did it. And I was like, this comes naturally to me. Whereas fucking writing that shit down, that's what's difficult. Like we did one on Macbeth. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about Macbeth or write it down. Let me recreate and film a scene from the book, which was done fucking horribly. But because it was film, and we did it gory too. It was like the death of the king.
Of course.
You get stabbed multiple times. You had blood all over the place. Because it was fucking shot on video. The only shot on video I could take, my own stuff.
Buddy, I get it though, and I made a movie for, what do you call it? My own thing, and I never wrote anything down. I just told people what to say, and maybe if they had to ad lib a little, they will. But I go, this is the general. You're gonna do this. You say this. You talk about this, and we'll do it. And if we got to cut and do it again, we do it. But that's what I would do. But I made one for English class, To Kill a Mockingbird. And I played whichever one it was, Gem or Scout, one of the two leads. One was a boy, one was a girl. And but I also played the black guy, that got busted and had to go on trial. So I know in this day and age you can't say it, but I put on blackface for it because I was a black guy. It made sense. So what I mean, but I made a comedy out of it. Everything I did, I always had a comic and a horror edge to it. So you can give me any, like you said, Macbeth, you made horror, you made gore. That's what I would do. So when I did To Kill a Mockingbird, I did all this stuff, and I added humor in it, and I added other stuff, and I added horror elements. But I did this thing. I don't know. Do you know the story of To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yeah. I've read the book.
Okay.
Or I've watched the movie. One of the two, or both. I know I've watched the movie because it's Gregory Peck, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Atticus Finch.
Yeah.
Yep. Atticus Finch is the character, but the guy gets put on trial, but he has a bum arm, or I forgot what it was. But they said that the black guy did something that he actually didn't, so he was, accused of, I forgot what it was. That's how long ago it was, but did something to some girl. And so now, because I'm heavy into rap at the time, and I'm basically known as the fucking rap guy at school, because I think I've talked about this before. Back then, no one was listening to fucking rap, hip hop, none of that shit. It was like fucking, first of all, I was 99% Caucasian, and on top of it, it just wasn't what it was at the time. It just wasn't like in 1984, fucking like 15 rap tapes came out. That's it. 15. The things that you would consider hip hop albums, that is it. That's what came out in 1984. I owned them all. In 85, it was more like 30. All right. And so on and so on. But I owned every rap fucking cassette or LP that came to the store. I had it all. I devoured it all. Everything that released, I owned it. So I had it all, and I was known for it. I even wore the fucking, I think I've told this on the show, when I listened to that Eminem show, that Eminem song, when he talks about going to the mall wearing the freaking Africa symbol, and he says it in the song, Yellow Brick Road's the name of the song, and he goes, not even knowing I was getting laughed at, you ain't even half black, you ain't supposed to have that. I was wearing the Africa symbol. So I was always into the freaking end apartheid, this and that. I was always into that culture because I came up on the rap. So when I did it, of course, I am not trying to be racist. If anything, I'm the opposite. I'm dressing in hip hop gear and everything else. That I always embraced it at a young age. So when I had to play this guy that was accused of being, a terrible thing, I made him like a G. So I came out with a boombox on, and I wore my Africa symbol, and I painted myself blackface.
And I got
the song that I played on the boombox was a song by Schoolie D, and the song was called, I can't say the word, Don't Call Me Whitey, the N-word, okay? And I come out into the courtroom like that, freaking moonwalking with the boombox on, doing that, and then I get up there and I use a freaking accent. Yo, so they had me come up and do the bust out the shift roll, they said, and I said, yo, man, forget that. So I went into a freaking thing acting like the rappers would act. I wasn't being racist, of course. That I was into it, but I was making it comical because here's me.
Nowadays, that would be rated racist.
This is what I'm saying.
Nowadays, but back, it's funny because again, is it? Yeah, probably. But that's not what you're going out for. You were actually not trying to do that. So it's funny what your intent was versus what it's being observed as, which is interesting. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think I've mentioned that we did the Fat Boys live in front of it, and this is in grade 8, and I wasn't a fat boy. I was like one of the backup guys, and they all went and did the blackface thing, and no one questioned it. No one even thought about it. That this was anything offensive. They thought it was like kind of like ingenious that it was being done and whatever. Again, you can argue it. I get it's not like nowadays I can understand that, but back in the day, I mean, hey, I could argue that it was bringing more attention to in a positive light to this type of music and different culture. But again, I could probably be skewered in an argument over that as well.
But it goes both ways. Dave Chappelle on Chappelle's show would paint himself white and act all tight ass when he was doing a white guy. This is a black guy doing an interpretation of a certain type of tight ass white guy. Well, we can't do that, children. So, but he also did
pretty much society today.
And other shit. It's a slippery slope when you're a Caucasian doing that. But at the time when I was doing it, like I said, yes, it was for comic effect, but there was no poking fun of or hatred involved in it. I mean, we poke fun at everything. I could have dressed up as an Italian and done it and acted a certain way.
Absolutely.
Or anything.
You would have come up with like you're buttoned down by your belly button with chains and chest hair popping out.
Right,
like that.
I could have done it anything. I could have done an Italian. Anything. I could have done a Mexican or anything. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Just what you interpret something is as a kid on top of it. Nowadays, no, it's not going to fly. But also nowadays, it's a whole different thing. Like Francesca told me today, earlier this morning, she said, did you know, blah, 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 Katy Perry did some song way back, I don't know how many years ago, and people are mad at her now because it says eat your heart out like Jeffrey Dahmer, and they're trying to cancel the song. I'm like, are you serious? And she goes, and it's a great song, too. And she goes, people act like Jeffrey Dahmer is a new thing. I'm like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Nobody cares until fucking Netflix. It's the Netflix effect. It's pop culture. Well, and also, now they care.
It's also just social. It's just the amount of media that we've got at our fingertips that like somebody found this out and it just takes on a life of its own because you've got all these fucking people that can hear it and play off of it and go, I don't like that either. Or could you believe this? Or whatever.
Right.
I mean, like it's with everything.
All it takes is a couple twits with a couple tweets. And everything freaking is changed.
This should be our next show.
You doing your thing, Frankie? Do?
I thought Mom wanted me something, but she's asleep.
Oh, Frankie's here. Frankie's
here.
Frankie. You want to come in here? Come in for a minute. Come in for a minute. Hold on, I'll unplug this. Hold on.
A couple of twits with a couple of tweets.
Hey,
Frankie.
Hi.
It's our new show name.
The Katy Perry. What happened with the Katy Perry thing? Is it on YouTube or something?
Well, I saw it on TikTok because everything. TikTok is like the new Twitter. Like anything controversial happens, you hear about it on TikTok. Because I don't have Twitter, but.
Well, you know what? I heard the new thing, Frankie. I don't know if you can hear me or not about TikTok. It's funny. It just was it yesterday morning or Friday morning? Either way, I was on the news saying that what has come out is that TikTok in China, where it was developed, is used as an educational tool and limited for the amount of time you can use it. But the mass marketed version that give to the rest of the world is this other thing that is they call the crack TikTok that has taken off and created this beast and monster that people are devouring and consuming, whereas it's not used like that in China where it's developed and it's used for educational purposes.
Oh,
isn't that crazy?
That kind of makes sense though. I didn't hear about it, but because of like, I guess like China has like a lot of like censorship, I think, or am I thinking of a different?
No, I think you're right. Without knowing the ins and outs of the government, yes, I believe you're.
Well, they're communists, right?
Yeah, well, but isn't that interesting? Like, oh no, we'll let the rest of that world devour it they have, but this is how it's being used here, and again, I think it's being used there because they know the effects it can have on people.
Yeah, that's believable. I believe that they probably do that.
Well, it's like. Social media is one thing now. It's like it's just like everything in life. As it evolves, it becomes faster and crazier, and you consume it even more. It used to be like you get like a post here and there on your timeline from Facebook, a tweets here as Twitter took off and whatever. You get that stuff. But this is like it's video after video. Just devour it. I've done it on Facebook every now and then. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I just wasted 20, excuse my language, Frankie, sorry. I apologize. Say you're just one of the team. I apologize for my mouth, my potty mouth. What the heck am I doing? I've just wasted 20 minutes of my life. And I've done that numerous times and I've caught myself here doing it. And I want to change that behavior. And sometimes I'll go in the app. I'm like, no, what the hell? So I almost want to delete it from my phone so I can't do it. But then sometimes I'm bored.
Yeah.
And so I just feel that boredom with that I used to do back in the day before we were glued to these things. But not to take it off the rails or whatever, but it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's how it starts now. There's a TikTok. It used to be like a tweet, like you said. Now it's a TikTok that takes off, and it takes off a life. It has a life of its own, and it becomes news again because of a song that she made probably on her first album.
Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Are they mad that she kissed a girl and she liked it too?
Right?
No, they support that.
I was gonna say,
they love that. They love that.
There's no way they're gonna oppose that.
They love that.
It goes against, It goes against the plan. No, it's funny though. It is funny.
Yeah, that and the Keisha song. When do you know who Keisha is?
Yeah, I know who she is.
She sang the
I know.
song,
I don't know her music, but I know the name.
Cannibal. Okay.
Yeah. And it was I forgot the lyric or something. Wait, be too sweet and you'll be a goner. I'll pull a Jeffrey Dahmer. And everyone got mad at that. A song that came out in 2012 or something. Probably like older than that.
Huh. Only because
these people. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start a TikTok channel and just play NWA.
I was just going to say.
The world is going to explode. 2 Live Crew and NWA.
They
People
won't,
are not going to know what hit them.
But they won't. This goes to show you the hypocrisy of it all. There's a very obvious reason why they would not go after NWA and 2 Live Crew. Don't you know what that is?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Makes no sense. Well, because they're black people. And that goes against what the cancel culture. Cancel culture loves representing black people, not opposing them. So they'll look the other way. And I love NWA.
And again, which is probably why I think I was trying to articulate this point, but usually I never do a good job. I was in my mind, it's just one vision of what I want to say, and then when I actually open my mouth up, I'm like, well, that didn't come out the way I wanted to at all. But when we were talking about when Straight Outta Compton came out, and I think we brought it up on the show, I'm actually shocked that movie was able. There's 2 movies that I thought got kind of a free pass. Was that one?
Yeah.
It didn't get kind of just like there's a few people that argued against it. Said, wait a second here. Remember back in the day, this was glamorized, and it's like this is sugarcoating something that happened in our industry, and it was really weird, or in the world that was really weird at the time. And then the Dirt,
they were
with the Motley Crue.
Women. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, people were going crazy.
Now what? Now it's okay to objectify them. But
it's not. It's not. But it's that movie got a free pass a little bit. Same with the Dirt. The Dirt, Motley Crue. Love the movie. Love both those movies, but I'm shocked that movie even came out, because you know these things and I think I've used this exact argument. They don't make them like they used to. Well, those are 2 examples of movies that I'm shocked got made and released in the current climate of what we're dealing with. I mean, I know they're both pre-pandemic, but still in this new kind of the Me Too evolution of the other. I'm not trying to, but I am blending it all together into one big, this whole new movement that it encompasses a lot of different things. And unfortunately, there are very important issues and movements within the bigger kind of woke culture. Like Me Too is important, but then it gets blended in with everything gets blended in, and it becomes woke under the umbrella of woke.
And that's the problem.
And that's the problem.
And you know what? I got to take it back though, because Dave Chappelle, he's a black man. They want to cancel him. So I guess I can't use
I think he's going to cancel himself. I don't think anybody wants to cancel. There are people that want to cancel him.
And Netflix, they wanted to resign, remember? But then again, he offended other cultures, right? Didn't he offend Asian people or something?
I thought he offended
gay people.
He made it.
Okay, that's what it was.
He has an Asian wife.
Gay people are more important to the left than black people, apparently.
That's his whole argument. He says, you guys are not listening to me. That's his whole. No, I'm saying if you listen to the context of his show, he's saying we've been crying about this for fucking decades and decades and decades. This motherfucker comes out and says one thing, and it's like we change it tomorrow. And he's like, we want to have that power. That's the power we want, and we've been shit on for all these years. That's weird. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the context of sort of what he's talking about. And you can see why I'm a little pissed off and I'm a little upset by it, because we've been fighting this good fight, and it's a slow fucking process, and so-and-so could become so-and-so is a man and become a woman the next day, change your name and be identified, whatever. And it's not that there's an issue. It shouldn't be an issue, but that that their platform has been elevated to a different degree, whereas the black platform of Black Lives Matter seems stagnant or hasn't been making the ground as quickly.
And it doesn't make sense, because it's like he said, somebody decided to make this conversion, and I'm saying to, convert to be a woman or identify or whatever it is, but they're brand new to the game, right? But where black folks have been, a black man's been a black man all his life. How old is Dave Chappelle? He's had to deal with whatever he's had to deal with in his lifetime. You know what I mean? You can't just all of a sudden overnight. It's kind of like, remember when?
Not a joke. Because what if I identify as a Chinese guy inside? And that's where he went into the Chinese identity and Chinese stereotype. And he says, but the great thing about Dave Chappelle is he knows. It's like he plants the information right in his segment. He knows that's going to get him in trouble. So then he talks about going home to his Asian wife who hates that joke, and he'll work it in. Beautiful. That's fucking comedy. Sorry, Frankie. I apologize for my mouth. I apologize. I should be better. Dave, talk to me here. Put me in place.
Watching a movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't even care. But that's the stuff that I love, because that's writing genius, not just comedy writing, but writing genius. It's knowing that this is how we're going to fit this in. I'm going to build it up so I can get this joke in there and then back it up with this, but then also know that that's going to possibly play offensive, but I've got a backup to how I could deal with that as well. And Smart. It's right though. Sure. What do you? What if I just decide what is this? Where does it end in the big picture? And I'm saying everybody has the right to do what they want to do. But what if Dave Chappelle wanted to do a whole special because he identified as a Chinese guy, and that whole special was done like that?
You're on a slippery slope now. But I will say this: Jerry Seinfeld said it best on that episode of Seinfeld. I don't know if you remember this, but he has a friend, and you haven't seen this episode yet, Frankie. We're going through Seinfeld currently. We just haven't gotten to that season yet. But he has a friend who's also a stand-up comedian on the show, right? That's his character. He's a stand-up just like Jerry. He converts to Judaism. He becomes a Jew. He's a Christian before, whatever. He converts to Judaism, and right away
Arnold
starts making Jewish jokes, because I can do it now. Yeah. Because I'm a Jew. and Jerry gets offended, but this is the punchline. He goes, he converted to Judaism just for the jokes. He said, and the guy goes, and this offends you as a Jewish person? And Jerry says, no, it offends me as a comedian. Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh God!
You brought that up. I think you have brought that up on the show. It's true, and that's the genius. That's the genius of Jerry Seinfeld there, and Chappelle. Like I said, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. I hate using the term GOAT, but that's why his comedy's different from a lot of the comedians out there, because I think it's jokes, but there's more to it. But what they're just seeing is they're not really seeing the context, or they're choosing to ignore the context for the taking offense of the joke. And again, I'm generalizing, but I'm saying I think that's what the attack is that's happening against Dave Chappelle with the closer and Sticks and Stones. And I think the Sticks and Stones is possibly my favorite of his modern Netflix specials. The closer's a great follow-up to it, but it's not as funny as Sticks and Stones, because I think he wanted to really drive home the point in the closer of what it was about. I think it was really to answer to the reception that Sticks and Stones got. So he, weaved in comedy into that, but I think it was more to explain his stance, and it got him into further hot water by doubling down on it. Well, because he tells that one story of knowing a comedian and bringing her on stage, and she was going through the transition and whatever, and he tells that story, and then he sucker punches the audience with where that story goes. And I every time I listen to it, you're like, oh fuck, I forgot. That's where it's going, and it's a sucker punch. But again, it's all about that whole thing. And said, who's the one that actually ended up beating down on her, in a sense, not physically, but through treats, was the actual community.
Her own clique, if you will,
So, I mean, this is why I think it's upsetting that that's going to be his last. He's made the decision to make it his last, because he's saying that nobody's reading between the lines, as he actually used in one of his first specials, which is that they're just hearing the offensiveness or only responding to the jokes and the offensive, and looking or reading beyond that. And so he's canceling himself before anybody can cancel. So he said he's going to take a break, I think, for a bit. But he's coming. The guy's coming like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day to Toronto. Tickets $1,000 a person. I had no clue. I was going to bring it up to my wife, but I knew my wife would pull the trigger. I'm like, there's no way, hon. We're not because I've always wanted to see him, and I've missed him a bunch of times. And again, it might be my fault for not knowing. And maybe they were way more reasonable at the time, but they're like, if there's any tickets left, they're astronomical in price, which again, I just like autographs and stuff. I don't know, Frankie, if you're into collect, I don't care about autographs anymore. I don't care about a lot of that stuff. And I have a limit on what I'll pay for a ticket for a concert. And I don't even like paying $100. I don't even like paying $150 a ticket. No. I hate it. But sometimes there's no option for it.
How much were the tickets for the concert that we were going to go before COVID?
Don't remember. I remember it was something expensive though.
The black
here in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what was it, like $80 or something?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Those are the nosebleeds here for the most part.
Oh.
Yeah.
If you're at a big venue, those would be the nosebleeds, which again might be fine depending on who you're seeing. If that's my option. But I kind of want to have some sort of close perspectiveness. I don't just need to be there for the aura of being in an auditorium. I want to experience it. Like when we saw the Chili Peppers, I think they're about $150 each, and it seems like that seems to be the general rate now that you're spending per ticket if you want to get a seat that you can actually sort of see the actual band, not just on the Jumbotron screen.
Terrible. You got to boycott it, and it's because it's not even the band that's charging it. It's the companies, and someone's got to do something about it. So hopefully someone does.
Well, the whole Taylor Swift thing, I think, opened up, like, kind of pulled the Band-Aid off a little bit, but I didn't hear anybody doing anything about it, because what ended up happening was there needed to be, so there was Ticketmaster, who had a monopoly. There's no other way to put it.
We know that
they own the industry, and then I don't remember Live Nation, but when Live Nation was there, then Ticketmaster just purchased Live Nation. So like, there's no competition. There's nothing to. StubHub was a way to get, and then they bought StubHub, or it was always them. I don't know if they always own them, but StubHub, I got Taylor Swift tickets for my daughters back when she did the Red Tour way back when, and I went with the two of them. That was their first concert, I think, and it was like I got them for I think $100 each, maybe $80 each, and they were good seats, secondhand. Now StubHub is just as bad. You go to StubHub now, there's no difference between StubHub and Ticketmaster.
Yeah, you got to play the game. It's like stock market. You got to wait till the day of. You got to see what's going on. Yeah. Who's there? What's the venue? You can do it, but you got to play. But still, I can't even. I just boycott it all.
That's it. You know what you spend for Fish, and Fish.
That's it.
I don't understand why people can't get their own, like, with the internet nowadays. I just don't understand, like, anything. Why not? Why do you have Apple? If you're the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I know that Apple's got the distribution system, but don't you think you've got enough of a fan base that you could just stream it directly to them and not pay the fees for Apple?
Right.
Like, I don't understand this. If you've got the weight of that band, Taylor Swift, why does she need anybody?
Well, I hear
Why can't she just create her own concert going experience? Yeah, I know there's a lot of red tape, but I think the money that they need to put into that would probably possibly outweigh. I don't know. Maybe I'm making it way too easy in my argument, but I feel like they could do it.
You gotta go.
I have to go do my homework.
Sorry, Frankie. Okay. Boring your ear off. Take care.
No,
and sorry.
What was I gonna say?
I'm sorry about the language with her. Man, you're in a routine. You forget. I forget.
Hold on.
I'll beat one of my kids as reference. I'm kidding, everybody, before I get canceled for that.
Yeah, you too.
Joke.
Yeah. They need their own app. That's what bands should do. Like, but see, like, here it is. Fish has their own app, but it's Live Fish. It's all the live from 2004 on and a bunch of old stuff, and I subscribe to that because that's the only place I can get full Fish shows. I could get them elsewhere. I used to pay for shows.
I got the Dead Fish app.
Yeah, right. I used to buy it, and I used to download individual concerts and put them on the Live Fish, and it's hard to explain. But ultimately, now you can pay one charge per month, and you get it all, and it's access to all the shows that have ever been recorded on soundboards. So it's great. But Fish still also has live albums on iTunes. They don't need to because they could just say go to Live Fish and get it. But they have their studio stuff on Apple and probably Spotify and etc. And it's probably all the same stuff. But they have their own app, but it's just for live stuff. But what I'm saying is they could take everything and just say, okay, you want to hear Fish? Here it is. It's on the Fish app. If they could do it, why can't other bands do it? And other bands should do it.
I love Apple Music. I'm not against Apple Music
I love it
or
too.
anything like that. I love it because you got everything you could want for the most part. I mean, I know there's some things here and there that you can get, but you can get it and have it at your fingertips and listen to whatever. Go, what's that song? Oh, fuck yeah! I remember. I want that again. I want that on my playlist, whatever it may be. Like, but what I found is, although, because I'm in the streaming service factor, I'm not buying music, I'm streaming it. So I feel like I'm supporting the bands that I love because I have them on my phone and I'm streaming their shit or I've downloaded it. But sometimes, I mean, depending on what the band is, they're not seeing a cent from that.
They're not seeing
because of the way the streaming system works. I thought that if I stream their music, they get a piece. No, but it's all like some elaborate pyramid thing that, again, I don't even totally understand, that it seems like it's funnels, and depending on the popularity of you as an artist at that time, you get a cut. Like, so like the Taylor Swifts, the Drakes are cleaning up, but when it gets down to like someone like Social Distortion and Dramarama, I don't know what they're getting from that. Again, it's a weird system, but I don't think they get like a pittance, if anything.
I'm not sure. They get something because they agree to put it on there, so they're not doing it for
now. If you buy it, of course they get it's like you're buying it, so they pay whatever royalty they need to pay for hosting it, and they get the rest. But my understanding is if you're streaming it, it's a whole different ball game, and it gets very complicated from the sounds of it. Again, that podcast I listened to, the Alan Cross History of New Music, gets into the weeds a little bit, but it's still sort of just scratched the surface. But I was a little bit shocked at that. So even if you go on right now and stream Fish, not download, just stream Fish and stream their albums, they may be getting paid, but they may be getting paid after Drake gets paid or Taylor Swift gets paid from the sounds of it. Again, I don't know if I have the ins and outs of that all right, but again, if you're not purchasing that music, it's just going into the big bucket of streaming, and then wherever Fish lands on that list, they'll get whatever calculation is made. And again, chime in, people, if I'm wrong on this or whatever. That's kind of the gist I got. Again, if you buy a CD, a record, it's directly going old school way, the way that the system works. X amount goes to the store that you bought it from, X amount goes to distributor, and then whatever gets to the artist at the end of the day. And if you buy it on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, if you buy it, it's the same sort of thing. They take the whatever royalty and the rest gets distributed accordingly. This is why tickets at concerts have gone up. Well, everything's gone up because of fucking inflation and life just in general over the years. But now they make the bulk of their money from these concerts. So Swift can be as upset as she wants that her fans have been treated unfairly, but she's reaping all the benefit of it. So how loud do you think she's going to bark at that? But that's why Pearl Jam wanted change back then. It boycotted Ticketmaster, if you remember. But I think they went through Live Nation. Now it's all the same fucking thing again. There's no separation.
Well, okay. This is what I read. It doesn't matter. We pay the same headline rate for all compositions. So it doesn't matter who. This is iTunes now. Our average per play rate is 1 cent. So basically, anytime you stream a freaking song from any artist, it's a penny for the artist. That's what they get. And at Spotify, I think it's like 1 to 3 cents or something. Because I was reading about this thing about Spotify and everything just recently. But the problem is, Spotify themselves and Apple.
What if you download it? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get that.
Like I download. I'm not buying it. Download. I mean, you can download it to your phone and play it. Like, I mean, I'm assuming maybe, is there a ticker tape behind that includes that, or is that considered 1 cent, but it's been on my phone for a fucking year?
Yeah, I don't know.
Streaming played over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know. It just says streaming royalties. It doesn't say whether downloaded or not, so that I don't know. And it says
here, gets more in the weeds.
We have helped millions of, to compare them fairly, it is important to share. We believe in paying every creator the same rate, that a play has a value and the creator should never have to pay for featuring. So I don't know. That's just what it says there, and there's just more to get into. Speaking of music, a lot of people liked us talking about music on the last show.
I've heard that too, actually.
And I had a discussion with my brother a couple weeks ago, and I just came up with it myself. I was listening. Irene started playing. She was cleaning up the house. She started playing Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm listening to the Dark Side of the Moon when I go down there with her, and I went into Floyd mode. Sometimes I listen to one thing from a band, I just go into mode. Or sometimes I hear one song from an album, and I got to sit down and listen to the whole album. It just happens. So it got me thinking, and I've come up with 3 bands, only 3. Can you come up with this? Okay. How many bands had 4 consecutive albums in a row that are all classic, that are considered 10 out of 10, elite, everything else? How many bands? I can come up with a bunch that have done it with 3, but as far as bands, I only have 3. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles, and it's no surprise with titles like that, with bands like that. For Pink Floyd, these are consecutive releases. Dark Side of the Moon, You Wish You Were Here, Animals, in the Wall. Boom, 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 boom.
Agreed.
For Zeppelin, 1 through 4, and you could even put Houses of the Holy, but I don't consider it quite on the level of 1 to 4, so maybe not 5, but still 1 through 4. The Beatles, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, Magical Mystery Tour, White Album. Every freaking song is great. I don't think any other band in history, and I looked at all, my brother and I have been discussing this for 2 weeks, and we threw other bands out there, and we thought of other bands, and we're like, could it be here? I'm like, well, nah, these two are elite, but these two aren't quite as.
It has to be in a row. You're saying in a row,
consecutive releases.
Because
a lot of times the band will have one album, they'll do 2 maybe, and then one album will come and it won't be as good, and they'll do 2 great ones after that, or they'll do. A lot of bands have done 3, a lot.
Like I could argue that with the Chili Peppers, but again, 10 out of 10 is a high rating. But then you've got the because Mother's Milk is not a 10 out of 10, but it's a great album, and then you've got Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which is the one that I
but then their follow up wasn't good.
But then of course, I like the follow up, but it's
I do too, but it's not heralded.
It's a 7. It's a 7.
Fine.
Roughly. And then they get to Californication, by the way, Stadium Arcadium, which is great. And those 3 are in a good run as well. But then they went on 2 that I didn't like before they released.
Stadium Arcadium was like 24 tracks though, and I would say
2 albums. But I
understand.
I love that album.
It's a double album, but you think that every album, that front to back, that's an excellent album?
No. But
that's what I'm saying.
A standout, yeah.
I
get it, but that's the fate of the Chili Peppers, as we mentioned on the show, is that their albums are overlong. They put it. The guys released an album earlier this year, released another album back in October, and I just found out they released a single a week ago. That's not even on the album. It's just another. Man. And I don't mind that. I like that.
If everything's great, yes, but a lot of things aren't.
Too. And again, if you're into metal, you might be able to argue that with Iron Maiden. You might be able to.
I was going to ask you. Okay, if it's Maiden, what would you say?
Okay,
4.
then it would be
Peace of Mind and On. I don't think Somewhere in Time is considered classic.
Yeah, no, I think it is now. And again, so Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and
not the 2 after. No way. I mean, they're popular, but they're not.
No, not Fear of the Dark.
Power Slave, I would be that one of them.
Yeah, it's Power Slave. So it's whether or not you give the credit to Peace of Mind, because if it was Number of the Beast, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, and Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, I'd say for sure. But you've got
interruptions.
Peace of Mind in there, which is a good album, great tracks, but not front to back as much as, in my opinion, as much. Now, maybe if I could argue Live After Death, I think that came
Doesn't
after.
Count.
Yeah.
Live albums don't count because they could come out any time and they can be from any era. It's too bad. It can't. Otherwise, I could go fish all day. You know what I mean?
If you're a Maiden fan, and same with AC/DC, because the cool thing about AC/DC.
We talked about AC/DC.
I know we did, and they released almost an album a fucking year, it seemed, and that's back in the day when you could. And again, I think it was almost like, let's hit while the iron's hot. And again, Black and Black's a standout. Highway to Hell's a standout. There are some great freaking standouts there. Razor Edge's a standout. But then there's got albums like For Those About to Rock, which have 1 or 2 good tracks. Flick of the Switch, 1 or 2 good tracks. High Voltage. Yeah. Everything had like 1 track that would carry that album, because you could do that back in the day. And you had the weight of the band because they had some great albums that give them the overall weight. But I don't know. You're right. 4 in a row. I'm
telling you. It's very hard, and I was going through my stuff, talking back and forth with him. I was looking at everything. I was looking at rap. I was looking at metal. I was looking at freaking everything, rock and roll, you name it. I was going through all these bands, and some came close, and a lot of groups have 3, and we figured that out.
3 for sure.
A lot of groups do have 3, but 4, those are the only 3. I threw the Stones at them, and I go, maybe they had a run in the 60s or the 70s. I don't know. See, for me, the Stones.
Well, they have great overall discography or library, but again, if from front to back on an album, even I don't know, and I would consider myself a pretty big Stones fan, one of my favorites, but again, because you're taken from a huge breadth, but yeah, again, you're right, like front to back.
I'm telling you,
because you'll cherry pick the songs and make a huge list of these songs are fantastic.
Right.
Oh, Chris A.K. Scott doesn't like Beatles, or could never get in the Beatles or Rolling Stones, maybe even Zeppelin. Isn't that weird? There's some people just can't get into that music. To me, that's weird, but I get it. Like, I can't get into Drake. Canadian guy, almost the biggest artist of all time. Doesn't he have the most #1 hits now, or tied for the most #1 hits?
Not really a fan.
Yeah, I'm not either. I like the guy. I don't mind him. I just don't like his music. That's what I'm saying. It does.
There's better rap than that.
Well, that's the thing. There's not rap much anymore. Again, the way I look at it, the evolution of hip hop is not what it used to be.
It's awful. Yeah, I'm with you. It's gotten worse and worse. It's sad because I listen to
that. You can argue that. You and Chris and Scott could probably talk hours about that. I was a fan in that flash in the pan style, like Raising Hell, Power, Straight Outta Compton, like the
86, that era, 87,
like that's to like 92.
Yep, that's the golden age.
Then I kind of got out.
That's the golden age. You were in at the right time, man. Seriously, it all kicked off in 84 and just kept getting better. It kind of peaked in 88, and then 92ish, and that was it. You know what I mean? So 100% though, I'm with you. But even with rap, I thought about Ice Cube's my favorite, and a Public Enemy. But I can't say these are all 10 out of 10. I could say 2 out of 4. Like with Cube, 1, 2. His first 4 are all very strong. I don't think they're all. I'm not as big on his last 2 as I am the first 2. Beastie Boys, however, I thought I floated that for a bit. License to Ill, Paul's Boutique, absolutely elite. Check Your Head and Ill Communication are both great, but not on the level I don't think.
Yeah, but see, I get those are all strong albums, but again,
the first 4 Run DMCs, Tougher Than Leather isn't as good as the first 3. As Debut and King of Rock and Raising Hell. It's a great album. I'm not saying it's not, but I have to be honest here. I got to say that every album.
The movie's not great either.
What's that?
The movie? Not great.
Oh, yeah, right, for sure. Even Ice-T, Ryan Pace, Power, Freedom of Speech, and Ice-T OG. I just don't think that they're all quality. They're all very good. I think the first one's the one, but it's just weird. Like all I can do is look at it and give my opinion, and going back and forth with just my brother and whatnot. But I'm trying to be open to suggestion, but I just don't think like the Doors is too bad.
Chris, everybody that wants to chime in, do it, because Rayman posted that thing on our page as well.
He's heavy into music, same as us. Yeah, and different type, which is awesome. Like even Slayer. I mean, I don't have it. See, to me, their peak. It's Rain and Blood, South of Heaven. See, to me, those 2 are the elites. And then the next one after that, Seasons in the Abyss. A lot of people think they're really into it. But that's it. After that, Divine Intervention, and before that, Hell Awaits. I mean, I'm not saying as in bad.
Oh, even Lamb of God. I mean, it's still difficult because these are now in a more niche styles of music that, again, you, like my wife would be like, no, Lamb of God wouldn't even make the list because not one of those albums would resonate for her at all.
Well, that's fine, but if you're a fan.
That's okay, but if you're a fan. And again, it's funny because they're Burn the Priest, which is like I think the original thing, and then they went to New American Gospel or whatever it was, their first one, and As the Palaces Burn. People they love those first 2 albums.
Yeah.
I can't resonate with them. Those are the ones that I actually can't get into. I don't like them as much. It's where Ashes of the Wake. Ashes of the Wake is. Pardon?
What's that one with the green and red cover? Hold on, I gotta look up.
Ashes of the Wake is where it starts for me, and it's Ashes of the Wake, Sacrament, and beyond. After Sacrament was it Resolution already? Or in the middle there.
Yeah, there it is. Green and red.
They're not 10 out of 10. Which one?
That's it. It's the green and red one. Ashes of the Wake. That's the best.
That one I love.
Yeah,
that's where it starts for me. But As the Palaces Burn came before that, and New American Gospel, I think, was before that one. And those 2 people, like diehard fans, that's what they love. That's Lamb of God to them. And to me, I can't grab onto as much there.
I'm with you.
They just didn't resonate with me. But Ashes of the Wake is where I got into them, and I really could pull something out. And again, from that album on, I listened.
But it really is tough.
Yeah.
It really is tough. Like I've looked at bands I love and artists I love and everything else and people, and I'm like, I cannot in good faith say that it's 4 in a row there. It's too bad because the Doors come real close, but what do you call it? They dropped the one album they drop Soft Parade in the middle of it, and it screws it up, and that's not a great album. But everything else they did was. But it just, something stands in the way, and it happens with so many bands, and I just keep. Like, but 3 does happen.
Like even Van Halen. I mean,
forget about it. 4 in a row,
because
no way.
The problem is like you got Van Halen 1 and 2, and again,
2 isn't.
These are great albums, but these are not necessarily all 10 out of 10s. 1 I love,
right?
2 I really like. Then you've got like Women and Children First, Fair Warning. Or vice versa. Yeah. And then you got 1984 and 50.
Diver Down.
And Diver Down, which is cover album.
See?
So it
They played around with Dave a lot. I think that was all Dave, though, with the covers and all that shit. He had that old school, you know what I mean? He liked the classical music type stuff, like, you know, and that was an influence, and he continued to do it when he went solo. So I think that's his influence. And it's too bad because they had the ability to do it. Like, I think that they had the best run of any band in the 80s. They were the most talented, too. I just think that that's them. Like, I make lists all the time, and I sit back and I go, who is the band of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s? And I sit there and I'm, you know, and that's what I go with. And upon deliberation, I came up with Van Halen as being the best band of the 80s. My opinion, whatever.
Well, the other one that kind of, that they, don't get me wrong, they had major dry spouts, but that you could argue hit in at least 3 decades. Well, they hit in more decades. There's a lot of bands that hit in more decades, but I'm just saying that was releasing new material and that would hit was Aerosmith. Hit in the 70s, whether you like them or not, hit in the 70s.
Well, yeah, but then
had a bit of dry spell, but then with that Raising Hell collaboration.
When they came back with Permanent Vacation.
Permanent Vacation and Pump. Yeah, those resonated well in the 80s.
Yeah,
and then they had in the 90s with their biggest hit ever from Armageddon.
Yeah.
At the very end. I don't want to live forever. I don't want to fucking remember the name.
I don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, I don't want to miss a thing. And then they had Jaded in the early 2000s as well. Again, varying degrees of success, but they propel themselves decade after decade. They were able to be, and again, whether you agree that he was on American Idol, whether that means anything or not, I think that injected even more life into Aerosmith. Again, you know, who's the Steven Tyler guy? It was Aerosmith. Oh my God, they've got this catalog.
Right.
And I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to live forever.
Who wants to live forever? Oh, that's a song by Queen, and that's what the guy said in Flash Gordon, which I thought was funny because Queen did the soundtrack to Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was interesting. Nobody else gives a shit, but it's because I'm a Flash Gordon freaking freak for that movie, and I like Queen. Queen had good albums too.
Yep.
4 in a row? Yeah. No, I'm telling you, it's so hard to see. And there are bands that I absolutely love. 9 Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins. I could go on different things and say, no, I cannot in good faith say that 4 in a row are classics to me, where I think they're 10 out of 10 albums, that they're excellent. I can't do it. I want to. I really want to do it with Trent Reznor. I really want to do it. And even if I throw the EP and they're broken and I go, you know, freaking Pretty Hate Machine, Broken, Downward Spiral, and Fragile, maybe. But then you're throwing the EP in there. You know what I mean? So it's tough to do. But I've gone back and forth. I've looked at. I've gone in all different form of music. And Public Enemy, first 3, awesome. 4th one, great. But I can't put it there. I can't. I want to. You know. So for me, it's those 3 bands, which happen to be 3 of my favorite bands. So awesome. I'm like, yeah, that works. But it's tough to pull off, man. It's 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. It's elite. It's hard. It's really hard to do. It's been done so infrequently. I didn't know if you had an idea, but I knew you'd appreciate it.
No, it's a great discussion, but yeah, it's hard when you start digging down. You're like, wait a second here. And again, the band, I love it's when I look at the music that I love. Like I loved Alice Cooper back in the day too. And again, there's even if he had like a 10 out of 10, it wasn't consistent. Because he was the one that they released a lot of albums, whether it was the original Alice Cooper, what he evolved into in the 80s and 90s, and then he still releases albums to this day, man. Like his discography or his library, as you would say, is huge. He's still releasing stuff, but you just don't hear about it as much anymore.
Well, that's what happens. A lot of bands keep making stuff, and it's just not this. Like the Smashing Pumpkins keep putting out stuff now, and it's just.
Well, and again, I liked the albums. I liked Alice Cooper. I liked Motley Crue, but I don't know if there's any Motley Crue I would even give a 10 out of 10. I like their albums. Yeah, no, I like him. I like Dr. Feelgood, but it's again that
great
could
album.
be empty. It's great, but it's not
Probably
a 10 out of 10. I like
No.
Girls, Wild Side, but
Shout at
again,
the
I
Devil.
like them. Shout at the Devil, and even
Great stuff.
Too Fast for Love. But they're always good. There's all good tracks. Like,
I know.
There's a good run, but nothing perfect. And that's
Right.
what you'll see. There's a good run for a lot of bands. And again, if you're not a Mötley Crüe fan, it's not going to be for you. But being a Mötley Crüe fan, I like those albums. Theater Pain, whatever, like we've left out. All those albums are good, but they're not. None of them to me are 10 out of 10s. They're just
you go.
All good albums.
Some people for me, Oasis, their first album was a 10 out of 10, and I think everything else. They're the one band that never put out a bad album, where I think every album was great, and they're definitely a slept on band. But every release they put out, I think it's a total of 6 complete studios, are all great albums, and people don't talk about it. But I guess they kind of got themselves. But around the world,
U2
could do it. They have one problem.
But Boy is good. War is good. Joshua Tree, I guess, would be their.
See, that's
War
the start.
And Joshua Tree would be like. Is it War or Joshua Tree? Am I getting that right?
Well, in order, I think it goes War and Boy, and then Unforgettable Fire, and then Live Under a Blood Red Sky, and then Joshua Tree, then Rattle and Hum, which fucks it up. The freaking thing they did for the movie, but then Achtung Baby and freaking in Zooropa on Pop, which I think are all excellent albums. But Rattle and Hum fucks it up.
Yeah,
and
again,
discussed this already. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I believe I've gone through all my favorite bands and I've looked at this and that. And there are some bands like that. Fiona Apple. Here's the funny thing about Fiona. They're all great albums. And the one album that a lot of people adore is my least favorite from hers, and it's her third album. And I still think it's great. I just don't think it's elite. But I have to be honest.
Interesting.
You
gotta be honest, Dave.
That's all I can do is look at it and say, no, I'm not gonna fit somebody in because I want them to make the list. I can't. But I do look at it, and there are so many bands. I don't know if Ram Man's gonna say Black Sabbath, because I know he loves Black Sabbath, and I'm a Sabbath guy too.
I would consider myself a fan of Black Sabbath. I've seen them. I've owned albums, but again,
their debut is
amazing.
10
out of 10s are difficult because, again, they're very easy. It seems like they're very easy to throw out for certain people or certain bands, but there are a lot of like 7 or 8 out of 10s bands that I just love those albums. Like,
of course,
I just know
consistency. Can't beat it. Consistency, like Alice in Chains. They have a 10 out of 10 for me. One album. Okay, that's me. Smashing Pumpkins have a couple. As much as
I didn't say Pearl Jam. It's fucking at the time.
Pearl Jam. Okay, I was thinking about this. Okay, so you got 10. You got Versus, Vitology, and then the fourth one was what? No Code.
No Code. But again, Vitology and No Code. I love No Code. I actually thought Vitology was the one that fucks it up for me. Actually, I don't mind that album.
No,
I don't mind
good.
But then I thought No Code was better, but that was less. It was less received or less well received than Vitology seemed. Yeah,
they changed their style a little bit from that album on. Like the first two, though, forget about it. Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent
exactly.
albums. A lot of bands are like that with 2 albums. Even Soundgarden. Love the first 2 Soundgarden. Not as crazy about the third. I could go on with so many bands with 2. Very, very common. 3 are an elite area. I mean, 3 is for a band to do three in a row is hard, but some do. But it really is difficult. It really is.
It's a good discussion, though. It's crazy because you get your mind rolling, but that I read a 10 out of 10. Some people might not. Like, again, if you're not into Chili Peppers, you might be like, no, Blood Sugar Sex Magic is far from a 10 out of 10. Like I said, I would even say it's overlong. It's an overlong album, but I still give it a 10 out of 10.
I agree with you. That's what we were talking about that day. That I still think it's the album. It's definitely 100%. 100%. That's my favorite album. But anyway, yeah.
I don't want to rush us, but you want to jump into? We're only doing one movie today, and. You want to talk about why we're only doing one movie? I'll start. Yeah. Fuck screeners. Fuck screeners. And again, I almost want to say stop fucking sending me them. It's not that I'm not appreciative of them, but make sure your shit fucking works. it's so fucking frustrating getting these emails and follow-up emails that say, go here, here's the link, go here, here's the fucking code, and it doesn't work.
Yep. It fucking sucks. Keeps happening. It happened with both movies. Even the one we're doing tonight, we had a screener for it, and then it
doesn't show up.
Right.
Did it not show up for you? So we're doing A Wounded Fawn tonight, guys. Not to be cryptic, just Wounded Fawn 2022 just debuted on Shudder this past week. And you know what? I'll get to that as well. Then we got a screener for this, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and that screener didn't work. The process worked, and then it didn't even show up as an option to watch my screener list. It ended up being a movie. Well, it was a movie that expired, but a movie we got a previous screener for. I'm like, that fucking shit didn't work. That pissed me off. And then we got a screener for The Leech. And again, it's not the guy's fault. We didn't reach out to him because it was kind of last minute. And there was some back and forth with Dave and him in a good way. And he gave us a screener for The Leech, and it didn't fucking work. And I'm like, fuck this movie. I'm not watching it now. So we didn't do The Leech, which is coming soon, I think, to Shudder. Right, Dave?
I don't know where it's coming, but we'll probably do it next show. Because that's what we'll probably do. We'll probably do The Leech on another show and Christmas Bloody Christmas on another show. Boom, that takes care of December. Nice and easy. We'll have some fun. You know what I mean? But what a mess this whole thing was with these screeners. And it sucks. But there's nothing we can do because even if we could get physical screeners, they're not going to send one to me and one to Christian. Especially
fuck them. I don't expect them to. So we got A Wounded Fawn. It debuted on Shudder. Now, Here it was. I didn't remember what day it debuted, but I checked because I was up watching it. Whether it was, I don't know what I was watching, but I was up, and I'm like, hey, let me check if it's 12:20 in the morning. Let me pull a Jason Smith, as we joke about. It always seems like he watches on the second these drop, and see if it's out because it's now December 1st or 3rd or whenever the fuck it came out. Not 3rd, but whatever day it came out. It wasn't on there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then I woke up and Dave said, did you check? And I'm like, I'll check again. And it wasn't on Canadian Shudder. I'm like, these fuckers in Canada. I'm pissed off. But listen to me. So I put my VPN on my computer and no issues whatsoever. Got the American Shudder, which I'm subscribed to. I'm just subscribed to the Canadian version, but because I put American VPN in, I got it. It was right there, nice and easy. You guys have all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. It looks like they came out, whatever. We didn't get those in Canada, by the way, the Elm Streets, which is weird. How we don't get the same releases of old movies. It's weird to me.
Well, Netflix is the same way.
I popped on. I saw A Wounded Fawn. I watched it. No issues whatsoever. Watched the movie. I found out I go back on the Canadian Shudder later that day. It's on Canadian Shudder. I don't know why it took like almost, I guess, 12 hours. No. Yeah. More like 18 hours.
You know what they do? Up. Maybe they wait for like prime time. You know what I mean? It's like HBO used to always debut their movies, like their first run movies on HBO. I remember it'd be like 8 p.m. on a Friday. It was when they would always show up.
Why would American Shudder have it on first thing then with no issues?
I don't think they did because I looked at it.
They did.
No,
I watched it on American Shudder.
Wait a minute.
VPN did. That's how I watched it on Friday midday.
Okay. Or Thursday. I'll tell you what.
Thursday midday, I guess it was December 1st, right?
I looked at like 12:30 a.m. because I was just curious and it wasn't there, so I don't know when it came on.
No, it came out. So midday it was out. But I had already checked Canadian Shudder again because you had mentioned it, but that was still earlier. So maybe it did drop, and I just happened to be like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna watch it on the American one because I can get in, no problems, done. And then that night I went back and Canadian Shudder was there. Who knows? It's there now. Big fucking story. And the end version is it's on both American and Canadian Shudder. It's directed by Travis Stevens. It's A Wounded Fawn. And here's the synopsis. A serial killer brings an unsuspecting new victim on a weekend getaway to add another body to his ever-growing count. She's buying into his faux charm, and he's eagerly what could possibly go wrong. And my answer to that would be the second half of this movie.
And I agree with you. And for the record, Brandon does too. As a matter of fact, we were talking because he saw it first, because I want to know your thoughts. So I was watching last night, and I was talking in the 1980 chat, and basically, what the hell did I say? What the hell? There you go. Okay, here it is. Okay, I'm surprised. Okay, there was something else I said, but he kept saying, I want to know what your thoughts are when you finish. And literally, this is what it says. I'm surprised. Oh, that was something else. I said, second act of Fawn lost me. That's what I said. B says, exactly. I say first act, great. Then he says, first 35 minutes, I was a fan. Then it lost my interest and understanding. And then I said, same here, but I have 20 minutes left. And then, actually, I kind of like the last 20 minutes, but the second act is, it's apparently a 2-act movie if you follow their structure, Act 1, Act 2, because they do it an artsy style, which is fine, and that's all good. But before I get to the movie proper, something I want to say. I was watching Wednesday. You know about Wednesday, right? The show.
Yeah, the show?
The new one. Yeah, with Jenna. Boy, she's all over the place.
It's fine. I know she's all over the place. I'm not even sure. I know show's huge. I just don't care. I'm not an Addams Family person.
Neither am I, but this is different, and it's Jenna. But anyway, and it's Wednesday herself. Just didn't you like Christina Ricci when she was Wednesday? And the scene you saw her at least.
You know what? I like Christina Ricci. I was never into Addams Family, so I never.
Me neither. I'm not into the show. But Wednesday
the
herself.
Movies from way back when.
I agree. Anyway,
I guess the answer is no, because I never.
Okay.
But I like Christina Ricci. I liked her from other stuff that she's done.
I just like the character of Wednesday. And I liked her in those movies. She was I could just watch highlights of her, and she's great in this too, as usual. This girl. So anyway, I'm watching Wednesday. This is what I'm watching with the family right now. So last night we're on episode 3 or 4, right? And now I know I'm watching Wounded Fawn that night. It's the only thing I have left to watch. I told them all day I got a movie to watch for the show. Okay. So, but in the meantime, we did this and this. Then we watched Wednesday. Then we decorated the tree. And then I watched a movie and had a headache doing that. But that's another story. But here's the funny thing about watching Wednesday. So we're watching Wednesday. And at one point, a line is uttered by her. And she has this roommate. And she's basically the opposite of Wednesday in certain ways. She's all about color and rainbow color and this and that. And Wednesday's about, dark. So they want to go into the store and buy a dress for this dance they're supposed to go to, something or other. And bottom line is this. She basically tells the girl, Wednesday tells her roommate, she's like, I can't keep up with you. And then right after that, she says, you're a gazelle and I'm a wounded fawn. Isn't that crazy? And I said, stop. I grabbed my IMDb. I showed it to my wife.
Collaborate and listen.
Awesome. Did you know they redid that too? You ever see that shit on iTunes when you go and listen to a song from the past and they re-recorded it and it's fucking different? That's what happened to Ice Ice Baby. It's like he put a different fucking style on it. Like he was trying to sound more like late 90s, 2000s. Oh,
well, he did there's a new metal version of it too, or
I understand that
as well.
But this is just listed under Ice Ice Baby from To the Extreme. Like if you go listen to the Extreme, that album on fucking iTunes, you're going to get the new version. Same thing with Careless Whisper with George Michael. Wham, I should say. They fucking changed it. Anyway, sorry to go off on that. But but I couldn't believe it. She said A Wounded Fawn. And I was like, look, this is the movie I'm going to watch after. But it was, what are the odds?
That's crazy when that shit happens, though.
Yeah.
Or when you're talking and you say, like, sorry at the exact same time or something, or whatever the word would be, as an actor on TV or whatever, and you just happen to be, it's like, whoa, that's weird. Or you'll be like, or you'll say something, and then someone says something exactly the same right after a character on television, and you're like, well, that was weird. But anyway.
Brother, I could do a show for 3 hours just about coincidences, and in 2 of those hours could be about things that have happened over the last 3 or 4 months, and half of that between my brother and I.
Save it for Jam It Dead. I'm just kidding.
Right. Another show, another day. Right.
But to give this movie proper. I mean, I don't know if you're talking about that. I don't know if you're going to talk about. I know you had problems streaming it with your Wi-Fi and all that shit, but you got to see the movie. Here's my issue. Here's what I'll say, and maybe I'm wrong because you guys both like Possession. I'll say if you like Possession and how Possession is, 1981, you probably will like the second half of this movie because it goes into that. Like, it's all done like this, and there's some Greek mythology thrown in and mixed into the stew. And maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed like a mix mash of shit in the second act. And for once, I wish it just went traditional. Yeah. As much as we say we're seeing the same shit, I wish someone went and did something different. I'll give the guy credit. He went and did something different. But for once, maybe not for once, but this time I wish it just followed suit. I wanted to see the movie that the setup presented. I know that there's hints. They've hinted at it throughout the setup and how where it leads to. But I guess where I'm going with it is I didn't want the supernatural. I didn't want the allegory aspect. I wanted it straight laced. I guess I wanted her and him to go mano to mano and chase, fight, and fucking work it out. And that is not what we get. Or if we do get that, it's done in a nightmarish imagery, which you'd say, like, well, why wouldn't you want that, Christian? It just wasn't for me. And that's the unfortunateness of this movie, because guess what? We talk about movies not being shot on film. This was shot on film, and it looked great. The look of this movie is great. Now, here's one thing. The first 10, 15 minutes, I'm like, wow, they made a really good look at this movie. I really wish they didn't put this extra film filter on that has all these little pops and whistles. I go, it's a little too much. They didn't need it. Then when I looked at the end credits, I'm like, this had to be, like, this looked too good for it to be digital. That's actually what I said. I looked at the end credits and shot on film, and proudly says shot on film. And we say that there's not much of that happening. I've said it. I go, unless you're Tarantino, it doesn't seem like anybody's doing it. This guy shot, I guess, on 60 millimeter film. It looked amazing. However, I do think they processed it. I do think those extra pops, whatever, were added after, and they didn't need it because the movie looked so goddamn good that I wish they just didn't do it. And if it's not that, if there's no process and that was just the raw film, then I'll eat my words. But it looked like it was processed. And if they didn't need it, or if they just put 50% less of it, that would have been fine. Because I can't take anything away from the look. Bravo. Looked amazing, and I loved it. I was like, wow, this looks great. Sounds great. It feels like, again, power to the indie. Unfortunately, my overall experience was more ho-hum, because I like the acting and setup that you get from this typically two-person cast. I mean, we've got some introduction that happens that has more people, but two-person cast, and how it plays out until it gets into that nightmarish, which is the second half of the film. Yeah. Or at least the last half hour. And I wasn't a fan of that, unfortunately. But that's where it's going to probably make it for a lot of other people.
Yeah, but see, I love artsy shit, and I love stuff that does go over the top, but it has to make sense, and I have to be able to follow it. That's the difference. I can watch an artsy stuff. I love it, but it's got to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, and I don't grasp, like, okay, I'll tell you what, I agree with what you said. I agree with the look is great. And Frankie was even there when it first started. And one of the first things she said was, she goes, this doesn't look like a new movie. So she knew, because it didn't have that regular high def look. So it wasn't just that it's shot in film. It's that they add that thing. But I said, you know what? That's done intentionally to look like a 70s film. Then when I started seeing the wallpaper at the different places, and then after the first kill, and when I see the blood, I go, okay, this is Argento. This is freaking. I feel like I'm watching a 70s freaking Argento film.
Beautiful shots too, like the above shot where the blood's coming out, like like a bleeded out, like a wounded fawn.
Italian red. It was freaking Italian paint red. It was nice. I mean, if you like that stuff, but to me, I was like, okay, I'm telling you, it's Argento.
Like, I was all on board. I was very happy with like that. Like I said, with everything we were getting, the performances were good. Again, it's very difficult to carry a low budget film, and you're pretty much in every scene. And these two actors did a great job. And then the supernatural kicked in. Sorry, I'm taking it away from you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
You like the look and the Argento-isms.
Yeah, definitely. Like the performances and everything else, and the setup. All the stuff was great in the beginning when he first finds the thing and how he kills. And I'm thinking, okay, did he just get possessed there because of the thing that's here, or something else pushing him? Was it planned? See, but I mean, ultimately. And then the cat and mouse thing, I love those intimate things when someone's getting uncomfortable about something or along with them. Love shit like that. We've seen like 3 movies this year that are like that, when either a couple is making another couple or another person uncomfortable, and where's it going to go? And I love shit like that. And this happens here in both instances. But it's like in both, the first 2 women he deals with. And I think it's great. I will say this. I am okay. Actually, I would have preferred it go into supernatural the way it did, but I want to be able to follow along with it. I wouldn't have wanted a whole movie of just those two doing
stream of consciousness.
I just want to grasp it. Like, I love what they're going for with the 3 women and coming back and everything else. And maybe if they could have explained it more and said, okay, this red owl looking thing was one thing, but because we have this thing, hold on, what was it called? The Greek and Roman mythology thing. Aaron is Bronze or whatever it was called, this art piece that was picked up, and how it affected these other things, which clearly it did. So there's almost like two sides to the spectrum. It's like good and evil. And that red thing was the evil, and this Aaron is Bronze was somehow representing something else. And we see something more of it. If they would have explained it, and I don't need it to be spoon-fed to me, but I also don't want it to be, let's just throw all this wacky shit out there and people are going to, they'll come to understand this is why.
I feel like that's exactly it. I feel like this is one of those examples where it's like, let's throw the spaghetti against and see if it sticks. Let's throw it out there and see if it sticks. They had an idea, and I don't know if it's as thought out as maybe it should have been. Maybe it is, but it just felt like too much shit and not enough meat on the bone or meat and potatoes. Something didn't resonate. I'm like, I feel loosey-goosey. It's the term I was going to use. I don't know why. And like even forced with him wrapping himself up with the bed sheet to really drive home the Greek mythology, because it looks like he's at a fucking toga party, and then and everything at the end. So again, we're going all over the place. So I guess let's for the listeners, if you haven't seen it, obviously, we always do spoilers here, as you well know, and it's not going to be any different. But it's set up more traditionally, and I guess that's maybe where it's going to make or break it for people. Like, if you like it to branch off and try new things, maybe you're going to appreciate the second half or the second act more so. But if you want it to sort of continue with what we're given at the beginning, I think you might be disappointed. And then the writer and director might argue, like, what do you mean? I made this movie and I set it up specifically to go in that direction. And there's hints, like, I mean, the art piece and what we see in there, I think it's kind of like Midsummer in the sense of, like, they kind of showcase where the movie might be going just in the expression of art. And you can argue that because he gets bashed over the head with it and his brain practically is seeping out or skull's broken or whatever, that now we are in his fucked up vision of being concussed and in this sort of fantasy realm for the second half. But it still just seems a little stream of consciousness and not enough for me to grasp onto or understand. And, like, again, maybe the fault of me. But again, if I didn't study Greek mythology, so why should I need to know Greek mythology thoroughly, especially since I believe the reference here is definitely not more commonly known. So again, unless you have to be a scholar in Greek mythology to get the movie, then that's not necessarily meant. Like, I don't know if you have to research everything to understand a movie nowadays. That shouldn't be the case.
I don't like that. I don't like when people use that. And it's okay if they do, but like when I see somebody watches a movie and I didn't quite get it, and they go, well, don't you know this is this? And like they talked about that movie Mother. This is the Bible, and this is interpreting. And then there was the other movie that came out, which I love. Was, what do you call it? Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I loved it for what it was, but that was based on another, I don't know, I don't want to misquote it and say what it was, but it was some type of Greek thing or something, and I didn't know that story. Should I have to know that story to enjoy the movie? No. See, in that case, that's where it works. In Killing of a Sacred Deer, I didn't know the background, and I still enjoyed the movie, right?
Yeah.
Mother, do I know the Bible? Sure. Did I make that connection? No. Does that make the movie better that it's based on things from the Bible? No. Why should it? Who gives a shit? Well, if it's based on a fucking football game I watched last week, it is what it is. You give me what I see on the screen.
At first I didn't know either, and then eventually I kind of knew because it felt like it was being jabbed down my throat, and I love that director typically.
I checked out.
But I hated Mother. Like, I just checked. I checked out as well. I'm just like, yeah, it's like that one and Climax are the two that sort of stand out for me that are from these acclaimed directors that I actually like. For Darren Aronofsky, there's like a lot of his work I actually really love. So like it just seems to be that one just didn't work for me. Where another one, fuck that movie. But again, just didn't work for me. And I'm not trying to elevate this movie to that level. I mean, this director did Jacob's Wife, which seems a little bit more straight-laced. Maybe I'm wrong, but going by memory, a little bit more straight-laced than this. And he also did Girl on the Third Floor, which I didn't really like, with their CM Punk or whatever his fucking name is.
Never saw it. Yeah, CM Punk.
Okay, I did see it, and I wasn't as fond of that one. But at least he's trying something different. Didn't resonate with me though, so I'm not jumping up and down with it. It's not a total fail. I didn't hate the movie. I was more upset because I'm like, Such a great look, such a great feel, such a great setup. And I'm like, what are all these? Then I kind of thought it was going to go Black Phone-ish. I thought because remember, here's where it might kind of lose points. The supernatural or vision shit starts before he gets hit over the head. If he gets hit over the head and that's what starts, I can almost buy it and maybe be more forgiving. But she's seen shit that is almost seeming like Black Phone-ish, where you're thinking, are the past victims coming back to warn her, help her? But we don't get that answer. She sees the shit first, and then he, like, I'm like, oh my God, he's seen it now too. That's great. Normally movies don't go that route. And I'm like, this is interesting. But then it goes right off the rails, in my opinion. So just where the supernatural stuff is setting up, and you're like, okay, I can buy this because I wasn't expecting it. And then he is part of it, as opposed to, I'm not seeing this. That light didn't just turn on by itself. I'm not seeing anybody. No, he goes out to investigate and is generally kind of freaked out at first. And you're still unaware. I'm all over the place here because that part I'm almost on board for, but then it goes a different route. And I'm almost like, fuck. I almost wish it kind of stayed grounded. And do you think it may have been better? Don't get me wrong. I love that opening kill because you said Argento. It sets him up. Well, what if we didn't see that opening kill? What if we didn't see that, which I love, the opening kill, but it leaves more mystery that you just know that he was an art collector. Suddenly he's at this, bringing this girl that he's dating, and we don't know his backstory, but then we see that the art that girl purchased is now on the table in the cottage that he brought her to.
And then we get the phone call from the friend when she talks about it. The friend tells her, "Hey, this was stolen and the girl went missing." And then they could have flashed back and showed the opening scene.
Is there more intrigue there? Because now we know he's a killer. I'm not against knowing he's a killer. Like, that's the movie we got, so that's the movie we're reviewing. But I'm just saying, from a mystique standpoint, he could have been at the art depot. Maybe he could have even knocked on the guy's door and just said, "Listen, I've got something to talk to you about." Cut.
Yeah, fine.
Then we get. I'm dating a guy. Oh, you got to tell me how he is. Tell me how big his cock is. That whole thing. Great. Right. That exchange is good. We meet him, and then it's this guy. But again, it's a whole different context. We know he's already killed somebody, which is what we kind of want. Oh shit, she's going to be in trouble. So maybe I'm fucking up the setup for his own movie, which is fine because that's what they made, and that's what we're dealing with. I'm just saying. But I'm just trying to think of how to keep the mystique going. But again, it's the movie that I want, not the movie we got. So it's my own hang-up. But hey, again,
so be it. But the thing is, they still didn't explain anything. We don't know why he's even doing this. Because he is working for someone else. Apparently, he's on the phone, and he's taking bids and he's a known bidder. Keep this in mind now.
Yeah,
he's someone that's known. So he is working for somebody else. So did he do this and it was happenstance when he went there and he saw that red thing because of the power that this thing emitted? The evil part of it came and possessed him right then and there and then took him over? Fine. But then how do you explain everything else? And why does he go to date the girl? And then we find out at the end, well, I didn't really plan on killing you. I didn't know. Actually, we don't know his motives, and it messes things up.
You're poking a lot of holes in there because, again, from face value, yeah, he's doing his day-to-day job and seems to be well known and whatever, or at least known. And,
they're all known
whatever
by
it may
that guy.
be. Yeah, and then she even sees him there and goes, "Oh, this is a highly unauthorized, not to mention illegal. Why did you follow me home?" Great, but you're right, because then isn't he just getting it for himself? And then, so who is he talking to on the phone? So he's going there knowing he's going to kill the person.
Or maybe not, though. Hold up, though. Whoa.
Okay.
This is the problem. I don't think he was getting it for himself. I think he's getting it for the people he works for. Then he gets there and he gets possessed. Then the power of it looms. And now he's got to do this. And maybe the person that owns the house, that Lenora, maybe that was his boss. Who knows? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Because they give us all this time in the middle of all that nonsense. But then we have that sit down at the end where we get into his head and she's questioning him and they're talking. That is the perfect opportunity to answer all the questions that I'm scratching my house, WTFing for freaking 30 minutes of the movie. Okay, let's have a sit down now at the end. Yes, it's unorthodox. Yes, it's trippy and everything else and artsy. That's fine. Give me that. But now use that time to explain the hows and the whys of everything we've just seen. It could have. That's why when I told B, I said there's 20 minutes left. Let me see what happens. And I'm glad that the tone changed where it went from all that craziness to them sitting down at the table discussing him and whatever's going on here.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. But they made that mistake. We don't know. We don't know anything. They made an editing mistake, which I didn't like, because they're like, on the right up.
Usually I catch those ones, and I didn't.
Okay. Well, on the way up, she says, I got to go to the bathroom. And he goes, oh, can't you just hold it? Yeah. We're just a few minutes away. We're right there. And she says, okay. Now, cut to the next scene. It's dark. It doesn't get dark in a minute.
And she doesn't fucking run outside. Yeah, she takes a while to ask for the washroom. I noticed that too, but funny enough, I didn't click into the I had to rewind. Bitch about Halloween, flicking the switch of having like dusk or light in the sky and it's pitch black one cut later, and I didn't even think of that. Well, he was being a dick because you didn't want any interruptions. We know that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're right, and that is a little bit of a mistake.
I thought I missed something. I rewound it. I go, maybe they stopped somewhere and then something on. Maybe did I miss something here? I went back and watched it again, but I was having trouble with the playback.
And she was in no hurry to pee when she got. She's like, oh, I just need to use the washroom. Like we've all been in those situations. It's like feet don't fail me now. There. I got to piss my pants. Yeah. Like that's what's gonna happen. Yeah, interesting. And you know what? But again, not that motherfuck the whole movie. I did like all because I did like that whole setup and whatever. Even though there are questions now that we've raised because of that never really get fully answered. And are they important? Well, no, they're more just important for like what was his game plan in the big picture. So what if he killed this person then what? He's got to go back to work the next day or in a week or whatever like that. I mean, that's exactly it. Like there's like. What's happening here? What would happen next? And whether the line of questioning and whatever, like what was going to be like this went missing, the girl went missing. We all know this information. So if he came back, was he going to come back to a line of questioning because he was the next highest bidder in this for his client in that draw? They were going to say, hey, did you know anything about this? Like, I'm assuming there would have been an investigation. We don't ever get there because of where the movie ends. But I'll give it credit for having the guy bleed out and the end credits play, and he just flops around as he's dying out. That was fucking great. And this is why I'm saying I'm very interested in this director and what he comes up with next, because I'm almost there. Jacob's wife, I liked a lot. I liked quite a bit more. I think I don't know if you did. There's a bit of a comic tone there. I think that you weren't too fond of Jacob's wife.
I don't like it. Was more of a straightforward movie. This was more my kind of movie, except for that freaking half an hour. It's too bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There is something here. There's enough ingredients of good. There's a new weapon. The acting was on par. The look, which I complained about, it looked good shot on film. Like everything that we've been bitching about, like all this good positive stuff, it just lost me for a bit. But again, I don't hate it because there's so much good. Like it kind of like it felt like it kind of tried to redeem itself near that end, and then you just get that bleed out scene as the end credits just play out. I was like, brilliant. Yeah, and the movie just ends. It doesn't even cut to black. It freeze frames on that. It was like it just stopped. No movie does that. Almost like an old school freeze frame. The credits but this one played out and no freeze frame, and then it didn't go to black. It just stopped playing. So the movie ended like it stopped because it would go back to the menu of Shudder, but there was no blackout or anything, which is interesting.
Yes, no, that was all good.
Little things that most people don't think about, but then I saw that shot on film and everything else. Like I wanted to see because I'm like, this is interesting because this look is way more rich than what we've been getting.
100%.
Some great positives, but unfortunately the narrative shift. But you see what I'm talking about? How it's her seeing the supernatural?
Well, he saw it prior because he saw it with the first girl. Sorry, you cut out.
Well, he's seen visions, but he's seen the vision of that the owl or whatever that is. Commanding him to kill, if you will, or possessing him to kill, and he can't take it. But what I'm saying is when she gets there, she hears her name.
Yes.
Nothing happened yet. She hears the light going on. She sees someone run by. We see someone run by when I don't even think she sees it. So then that is even kind of, in my opinion, a misdirection, but not in a good way, because it's setting something up like someone's physically there, or there's something supernatural happening, which might be the case, but then it's almost explained like he got hit in the head, which is what is bringing us to that shift in tone and whatever else. So I'm saying that there's a bit of a narrative disconnect that I'm not fully on board with, and maybe I'm missing a piece to the puzzle here that like I'm missing, but I know that they're setting it up, but it seems like it's not set up properly either.
It was too much. It was too long. All that stuff that was going on in the woods for that half an hour. That could have been. I could take 5-10 minutes of it, but it's.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It was too much. It was too long.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
What was going on? That was it. I mean, I like the visuals. Don't get me wrong. I need to know. I need to understand. And I could sit here and just look at more and say, well, there's more holes I can poke. I just don't. It could have been so easy to explain it. It's a classic setup. How is it any different from that movie? I'm trying to just an old piece has come up, and as a result of this old piece, things evil's afoot. Oculus, for example. There you go. On an auction, by the way, we pick up a mirror at an auction. Whoever gets to this mirror, bad shit could happen. Now, they don't say that about this piece. They just say it's this amazing piece. It's old. It's centuries old. We don't know who the original artist is, but it's coveted. It went for a lot of money, whatever. You know what I mean? What was it, $130,000? Whatever it is, just this thing. So, I mean, obviously it's not his money. He's not rich. You know what I'm saying? You could tell because he doesn't even live at that house that he's at and everything. He's just some dude. So he's working for this company and gets whatever percentage. But I mean, it could have been so easy to have more of a setup of this thing and say, okay, this represents this. It's so easy to make this kind of movie and say, okay. And some people have been known, it's been known to drive people mad or something. But, nobody believes it. Now, the negative effect goes on him, but there's also good in Greek mythology, too. And that's why the revenge and they kept repeating that thing about you're a thief and a murderer. You know what I mean? And that's what they kept saying.
Thief, murderer.
Right,
okay,
see?
it was a little heavy-handed with that, too. But you know what? Again, sorry, heavy-handed. If people don't like that term, I don't give a fuck. The reality is that as I was listening to watching it, I'm like, that's exactly what was going through my head. The other part is, I think he goes to that girl in the full intention of stealing it because there's no other reason for being there. But then that narratively screws up everything else. So he's on the phone with some potential buyers. So does he have money because he's all just bullshitting and it's all a front and he's got money from killing people in the past and that's what he's going to buy it for, but it's now gotten out of the price range? I don't know, but he's going there to get that piece. So him getting possessed there to kill her is just really, because at the end of the day, he's giving up his commission. He said he's going to give up his commission, whatever. No one's else going to, I think he went there specifically, he was going to take no for an answer. If she said no, he was going to break in and kill her and take the piece. That I think, because obviously he never went to the people. Not the, I guess, because he killed somebody, but I honestly think that was always his intention.
I don't know. Didn't they say that the girl went missing? And I don't know.
The pieces.
That's the problem.
Got missing too. Yeah.
But that's the problem. If he has this job, he's known by the auctioneer. He calls him by name.
That's what I'm saying. What's his game plan Monday morning? The day after he's back from the
doesn't matter.
Cottage.
He's been possessed.
If he went to kill this girl or whatever. I know, but okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's spur of the moment.
In pieces. Yeah.
See, but that's why to me it makes more sense that he went there to do a job. And when he went there to get it, they made this offer because somebody really wanted it, apparently. And when he got there, because remember, he wasn't even going to come in the house at first. You could tell by the way he was reacting. And I don't think he was doing it for her. I just think it was his natural reaction. He didn't seem like he was all that interested in going in. He just kind of wanted the piece. So I think it's a lot cooler.
Narrative, I think it was just narrative habitats to set him up, making it seem like he cares and her at ease, but we already kind of know that there's a ulterior motive. Now you don't really know unless you've looked at the description of the movie. That's the thing. Again, if you're just to put the movie on, you'd be like, oh, this is interesting, and then he kills her. But when you hear the fucking synopsis of the movie, a serial killer, whatever. As soon as I saw the synopsis when we got the screener, I'm like, okay, he's a serial killer.
Oh, I didn't.
I there was no surprises for me, unfortunately.
Oh, I didn't know any of
that. In that regard.
Okay, see, I went in blind, so I didn't know. I didn't know who this guy was. By the way, you know that actor is the director of Werewolves Within.
I didn't know. I knew he was in it, or had something to do with it. I didn't realize he was a director of it. That's interesting.
Weird,
cool.
Huh? Yeah. He didn't direct much, but he directed Werewolves Within and some other stuff, and I don't even know how much he's acted. But yeah.
Yeah, and again, if you go backwards, there are more questions that arise. But again, not a failure, but just a mild rumble for me.
100% agreed. It's a mild rumble.
It's kind of worth checking out to make your own, because there are people that are really digging it and saying that this stuff that we didn't like has some haunting imagery and might be the reason you like the movie. So don't take it just from our. Check it out for yourselves and make your own decision. But unfortunately, it just fell apart and didn't work for me. But I did like, again, how the setup, and I did like how it ended. And yeah, mild rumble.
Well, that record that they put on was called LSD, and it says on the fucking thing. And I venture to say that if you are on LSD, you might actually fucking love the movie. That second act is just trippy mania and scary. And if you want to get wigged out, and if you want to be under the influence of freaking, LSD or mushrooms, which, hey, if you're in what do you call it now, Colorado, you can eat them freely. Pop some caps and stems and watch it. Maybe you'll get more out of it. Maybe it'll freak you the F out. I don't know. It's trippy stuff. But when I'm sober and I watch a movie, I want it to make sense. And I can appreciate trippy stuff, but I need some type of narrative. I need it. As much as I love whacked out stuff, I need to know a little more. I don't need to know everything, but because you can pretty much figure it out. This is revenge. Yep. He's done bad, and these are women, and they've come back. Boom. It's as simple as that. So, yeah. Anyway, a mild rumble. It hurts my average for the year because I was doing pretty good, and towards the end, I was hoping to freaking keep the average up, but I've still done pretty damn good this year.
You know what? I looked at my list, and I realized I did rate a lot of things like a 2 out of 5. And whatever.
Really?
So I was shocked. Like, I was okay with them at the time, but then when I actually think about what I have no interest to go back, and it was just kind of ho-hum. So yeah, I'm going to be over 100 when all's said and done, but wow. So I've kind of kept the same consistency with, but again, if I cut them down to 50, and you chop out that bottom half, then there's a whole different discussion to be had. But that's the thing when you're going. And again, everybody has a different opinion of these, but there's some stinkeroos that were mixed into that. But I'm still happy with the year overall, because again, when you watch 100 films or more, you will get some stinkers unless you are just very forgiving of every movie, which we know there's people out there like that as well, or that will just see it differently. And ones that I hate, some people give a 5 or 4.5 to, and other ones that I'm so low on or so high on, other people are giving 1 or 1.5 to. It's just interesting when you see that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, I'd like to hear other people's thoughts on this. But yeah, mild rumble.
Yep, pretty much we're in agreement. Oh, okay, well, guess we got to get out of here. Guess we got to go. So December's here. Yeah, December's here, everybody. Hope your shopping's done and all that nonsense. Yeah. Because it sucks and it's cold here and everything else. But hey, let's get through the month. We got good things coming up, that's for sure. Year-end show is coming up, and then 5 more left to the big 200. So it's so crazy because I haven't even looked at anything for the big 200 in like freaking 3 weeks. Everything's done. I could do it tomorrow. Yeah. But that's why I made it that way. I made it so I wouldn't have to stress out. I'd rather have it done nice and early than be running around like a freaking lunatic.
Oh, that's it. That's exactly it. You want it. You want it there.
And I was out of work. I've had this extra time. So I'm out of work.
I'm looking forward to some of these Christmas movies too. The
yes.
Christmas, Bloody Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Violent Night too, but Violent Night I think is a action movie. Not horror.
It's pretty comical, I heard, but awesome. Everyone seems to be into it that's seen it so far. So yeah. I would recommend checking it out, even though I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's the kind of movie I want to go to the theater for, but whatever. We're going to be out of here. So we will see you guys. Yes, we'll see you guys very soon. We love you. And yeah, everybody have fun. do what makes you happy, and we'll see you again.
Just brought me cookies.
C is
Take
for
care, everybody.
Or Christian. All right, Manchichi.
Peace.